Hurry, hurry. An anxious female voice cut through the gray sky. Sister Zhang from the base logistics crew clung to the truck door and scrambled up into the passenger seat. Lin Yang's grip on the steering wheel tightened. This was an official supply truck belonging to the base, tasked with scavenging resources outside the settlement. Regulations strictly prohibited unauthorized passengers. Still, Sister Zhang had always slipped him an extra spoonful of meat in the cafeteria. He couldn't pretend not to see her now. Sister Zhang? What's going on? No time to explain. Drive back to base right now. I'm going to confront my husband. He's secretly meeting another woman. Sister Zhang slammed her palm against the backrest, her voice hoarse from shouting. If you make me late, you'll answer to me. Lin Yang's eyes lit up instantly. 3 years into the apocalypse, food, clean water, and ammunition were all scarce, but gossip was never in short supply. Rules were tossed out of his mind in an instant. He pressed hard on the gas, and the truck roared forward. Hold on tight. I'll make sure we get there without delay. Sister Zhang blinked, surprised by his sudden enthusiasm, then urged him again. Faster. Go faster. Ma'am, we're already pushing the engine to its limit. Lin Yang steered across bumpy, ruined roads, unable to stay quiet. Mind telling me which building that good-for-nothing's hiding in? Apartment 301, Block 3 in the civilian district. The moment the words left her mouth, Lin Yang's face turned ashen. Apartment 301, Block 3, civilian district? That was his apartment. He slammed the gas pedal all the way to the floor. The truck surged forward wildly. Caught off guard, Sister Zhang was thrown hard against her seat and grabbed the handrail in fright. Lin Yang, are you crazy? Slow down. Lin Yang's eyes blazed. His voice turned icy cold. I can't slow down. That's my home. Sister Zhang fell silent. An oppressive hush filled the cabin, broken only by the engine's thunderous rumble. On both sides stood dilapidated buildings swollen from moisture, peeling walls draped with dark mutated vines that swayed in the wind like dangling lifeless limbs. The air reeked of damp mildew, rust, and a faint tang of blood, the unforgettable stench of the apocalypse. Lin Yang's head throbbed. He risked his life driving supply runs every day, enduring wind and sun to gather materials. Yet this was waiting for him at home? Rage pounded at his temples. He barely noticed a shadow darting across the intersection until it was nearly too late. He slammed on the brakes, but it was no use. Bang! A thick mutated thorn bush burst from the earth and crashed straight into the front of the truck. The vehicle lost balance immediately, rolling 7 or 8 meters away. The windshield spiderwebbed into countless shards of glass. Lin Yang's forehead slammed into the steering wheel. Warm blood trickled down from his brow and dripped onto the jade pendant on his chest. It was an ancestral heirloom left by his grandmother, worn for over 20 years. It had survived countless knocks and falls throughout the apocalypse without a single crack. Now blood seeped into its carved patterns, and a faint flash of green flickered deep within it, gone so quickly it might have been an illusion. Agony washed over his body. The world blurred in and out of focus. His walkie-talkie crackled to life, the dispatcher's voice cutting through static. Lin Yang, come in. Lin Yang parted his lips and coughed up a mouthful of blood foam. He stared out at the murky sky and was overwhelmed by weariness and despair. This damned apocalypse. Never enough to eat or wear, risking death every single day, only to lose everything in the end. If only he could start over, he would never live this kind of life again. Right before his consciousness slipped into darkness, the jade pendant on his chest burned like a lump of fire. Blinding sunlight stung his eyes. Lin Yang jolted awake and instinctively raised a hand to shield his face. A clear, slightly distant female voice reached his ears. Lin Yang, I'm sorry. I'm not looking for a boyfriend right now. Lin Yang froze. He recognized that voice. He slowly lowered his hand and saw the girl standing before him. She wore a white dress with long hair falling over her shoulders, her expression awkward yet proud after turning down a confession. It was Lyra Yanran, the university beauty he pursued for 4 whole years. Surrounding them were classmates in graduation gowns posing for photos. The gate of Jingzhou University stood in the background, strung with a banner that read, Class of 2068 Graduation Ceremony. The wind carried the scent of camphor trees and sweet fragrance from the milk tea shop on the roadside. No mildew. No smell of blood. Lin Yang stared blankly for 2 seconds before wild excitement surged inside him. He had been reborn. Wait, shouldn't rebirth come with a system notification sound in novels? Where was his system? Lyra Yanran waited for him to plead, but when nothing came, irritation crept over her. Did you hear me? I just rejected you. Lin Yang recovered his senses and looked at the face he'd yearned after for 4 years, The same girl who'd latched onto the captain of the ability user squad once the apocalypse broke out. He felt nothing at all. He was even annoyed. For years of chasing, not even holding her hand, he'd been nothing but a fool. I heard you. He waved his hand dismissively. You can go now. Liar Yinran's eyes widened in shock. She'd imagined Lin Yang heartbroken, imagined him begging her repeatedly. She never expected this reaction. Lin Yang, you jerk. I swear I'll never talk to you again. Her eyes glistened, and she turned to leave. Wait. Lin Yang called out. Liar Yinran paused, secretly feeling a flicker of satisfaction. So he was playing hard to get. She spun back and lifted her chin. What is it? Let me warn you. I won't accept an apology. You can forget it. Lin Yang had no patience to argue. He stepped forward and asked bluntly. What's today's date? Where are we? Liar Yinran looked utterly confused. Jingzhou University, of course. It's June 25th, 2068, right after the graduation ceremony. Have you lost your mind? June 25th. Lin Yang's heart lurched violently. The meteorite would strike in 5 days, and the catastrophic torrential rains would arrive in half a month. There was time. Everything could still be changed. He clenched his fists so tight his knuckles whitened. What torrential rains? You stopped me just to ask that. Liar Yinran grew even angrier. Lin Yang glanced at her, then turned and walked away. Now that he had a second chance, romance was the last thing on his mind. Stockpile supplies, protect his parents, survive. All of that mattered far more than chasing a girl. Chase her? Not a chance. Hey, stop right there. Liar Yinran shouted after him, but Lin Yang never looked back. She stood there, cheeks burning with anger, biting her lip. Playing hard to get, huh? Fine. She would ignore him and see how long he could keep it up. Lin Yang paid no thought to what she might be thinking. He hurried out of the campus and hailed a taxi home. On the way, he touched his neck, and panic hit him. The ancestral jade pendant he'd worn for decades was gone. It must have been lost during the truck crash in the apocalypse. He felt a twinge of regret, yet it did not weigh heavily on him. Compared to a second chance at life, a jade pendant meant little. The taxi pulled up outside his residential complex. Lin Yang paid the fare and hurried upstairs. He inserted his key and opened the front door, greeted by the familiar living room. Dad. Mom, I'm home. Lin Zhangwo sat on the sofa reading documents and glanced up. Graduation day? Li Qing carried dishes out from the kitchen, smiling warmly. Yang Yang is back. Go wash your hands for dinner. By the way, have you decided where you'll work? Lin Yang kicked off his shoes and sank onto the sofa. I can hold off on job hunting. I need to talk to you two about something far more important. Lin Zhangwo set his papers aside and eyed him suspiciously. What's this about? Do you need more money? Or did you get turned down again by that liar girl? Dad, it's not that. Lin Yang massaged his temples. I'm not pursuing Liar Yinran anymore. Not ever. Li Qing set the plates on the table and teased him. Well, I'll be. The sun's risen in the west. Weren't you head over heels for her? Your father and I were even discussing arranging a proposal once you settled down. Lin Yang quickly cut her off. Let's drop that. Listen carefully. I had an extremely vivid nightmare last night. It shook me badly. He paused deliberately, his tone turning serious. In the dream, astronomers will soon discover a meteorite heading toward Earth. Experts will claim it poses no threat, but it will crash into the Pacific Ocean, and then everything will fall apart. Citywide flooding, extreme heat and freezing cold, zombies and mutated plants will emerge everywhere. The world will descend into an apocalypse. Silence hung over the living room for 2 heartbeats. Lin Zhangwo frowned and reached out to feel his forehead. No fever. Yang Yang, are you overwhelmed by graduation stress? Maybe we should plan a trip for you to unwind. Li Qing grew anxious too. That's right, son. Take your time finding work. Don't scare your mother like this. I'm not out of my mind. Lin Yang pulled their hands away. You don't have to believe me right now. Watch the evening news broadcast. Around 6:40, they'll air an emergency meteorite bulletin. If nothing airs, you can call me a fool and scold me all you want. But if it does, he looked straight into their eyes. We have to start preparing immediately. Lin Zhangwo and Li Qing exchanged a glance, both filled with unease. Their son had always been steady. He had never told such an absurd lie. Yet the end of the world sounded utterly unbelievable. Very well. Lin Zhangwo stood up. Let's eat first, then watch the news. If what you say comes true, we'll discuss next steps. If not, he huffed, you'll face the consequences. The meal proceeded with heavy, unspoken thoughts. Lin Yang stirred his rice, rapidly mapping out his plans. Move to higher ground, stockpile supplies, fortify a safe house. There were countless tasks ahead. Lin Zhangwo and Li Qing stole glances at him, their minds tangled in worry. After dinner, Lin Yang retreated to his bedroom. He lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling. Visions of the apocalypse flooded his mind. Bodies floating in floodwaters, frozen pipes cracking during the cold snap, zombies snarling as they charged forward. He tightened his jaw. This life, he would not let tragedy repeat itself. His throat grew dry as he thought. He rolled over and reached for the glass of cold water his mother had left on the nightstand. His fingertips brushed the cool glass surface. The room seemed to warp for a split second. The glass, along with the water inside, vanished into thin air before his eyes. Lin Yang shot upright, stunned. What just happened? Where was the cup? He sat frozen on the bed, staring at his empty palms. He threw off the covers, searched under the bed, rummaged through every drawer in the nightstand, and even checked the window gaps behind the curtains. Nothing. A glass could not simply walk away. He took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. If rebirth was real, what other impossibilities could exist? After the meteorite's particles spread across the world in his past life, many people awakened special abilities, superhuman strength, power over water or fire, and the exceedingly rare spatial storage ability. Could he have awakened the power ahead of schedule after rebirth? Lin Yang closed his eyes, concentrating every thought on the glass. The next instant, weight settled in his palm. Cool glass rested steadily in his hand, water rippling gently without spilling a single drop. Lin Yang's eyes widened, his heart hammering wildly. It really was spatial storage. He tested the ability more than a dozen times, storing and retrieving the cup repeatedly. It worked flawlessly each time. Once the excitement faded, confusion lingered. In his previous life, he had been an ordinary human with no powers at all. Why had he gained this ability after rebirth? He touched his bare neck and thought of the lost jade pendant. A fleeting thought crossed his mind, but he pushed it aside. It was probably just a coincidence. Mid-thought, Li Qing's voice drifted from outside. Yang, the evening news is starting. Lin Yang set the glass down and walked out to the living room. Lin Zhangwo and Li Qing sat on the sofa. The television ran routine news reports. They appeared calm on the surface, yet leaned forward slightly, clearly tense. Lin Yang sat down without a word. Time ticked by. The broadcast covered domestic affairs and international headlines, mundane as usual. Li Qing quietly exhaled, ready to say he'd imagined everything. When the anchor adopted a grave tone, "We interrupt our regular programming for an urgent bulletin. National Observatory has detected an unknown meteorite designated Star Trace 07 traveling rapidly inward toward the solar system. It is projected to pass near Earth's orbit in the early hours of June 30th. Scientists calculate the collision probability stands at approximately 0.1%, presenting minimal overall risk. Citizens need not panic." The anchor continued speaking, yet the living room fell completely motionless. Lin Zhangwo's hand, holding an apple, froze midair. He did not notice when the fruit dropped back onto the fruit plate. Li Qing's fingers whitened around the remote control, and she held her breath. They slowly turned toward Lin Yang. All casual doubt erased from their faces, replaced by pure shock and disbelief. It's really the meteorite?" Li Qing's voice trembled. Lin Yang nodded. He knew this was only the beginning. If he told them everything that would follow right now, it would only terrify them further. No one paid attention to the rest of the news. When advertisements cut in, Lin Zhangwo recovered and lit a cigarette, smoke curling upward. Yang, tell me the truth. How did you know all of this? I saw it all in the dream." Lin Yang had prepared this explanation long ago. He could not reveal he had died once. Every event unfolded in order in that dream. This news bulletin, the meteor impact, the floods, extreme cold and heat, then the zombies and mutated plants spreading everywhere. It felt far too real to be a dream. I thought it was nonsense when I woke up, until the news aired just now. He met his parents' gaze, earnest. "Dad, Mom, I know this sounds absurd, but it's better to prepare for the worst than regret it when disaster strikes. Once it arrives, there will be no time left." Lin Zhangwo tapped ash from his cigarette and remained silent. He had weathered many difficulties over 40 years, yet the end of civilization defied all common sense. Still, his son had predicted the exact timing and content of the meteorite news. It could not be dismissed as mere coincidence. "So what's our first step?" He finally spoke. "We need to move house." Lin Yang pulled out his phone, opened the map and scrolled until he found a location, holding the screen out to them. Shenghua Estate. It sits on South Hillside, the highest neighborhood in Jingzhou. Its ground level is nearly 20 meters higher than the average elevation across the city. When floods submerge most urban areas, this place will stay dry. He paused and added, "It is an older gated upscale community with thick exterior walls and strict property management. We should buy a ground floor unit with a private yard." We can store supplies there and reinforce the building later to withstand extreme temperatures and weather. Lin Jiangwo and Li Qing leaned in to examine the map and search for information on the estate. The location was ideal, yet property prices were steep. If we sell our current apartment and use our savings, we should have enough. Lin Yang had already run the numbers. We can grow vegetables in the yard. When supply chains collapse, homegrown food could save our lives. Li Qing hesitated. We've lived here for more than a decade. Selling it all of a sudden, what if none of this comes true? The neighbors will gossip endlessly. Lin Jiangwo stubbed out his cigarette and looked at Lin Yang with a stern warning. Son, your mother and I are willing to take this gamble. His tone was heavy. If all of this turns out to be your wild fantasy and you've turned our lives upside down, you'll get a proper lesson from both of us. I'll straighten you out even if I have to break your legs. Lin Yang relaxed and quickly raised his hand to promise. You have my word, Dad. This is no lie. If nothing happens, I won't utter a single complaint when you discipline me. Though he vowed confidently, he recalled the childhood punishments they threatened, and he inwardly cringed. But this time, he was absolutely certain he was right. The plan was tentatively settled. Lin Jiangwo would contact real estate agents to list their apartment and inquire about available ground floor homes in Shanghua Estate. Li Qing tallied their savings and investments to calculate their budget. Lin Yang drafted renovation blueprints and a supply checklist. It was nearly 9 o'clock when they finished talking, and everyone headed to their rooms to rest. Once behind closed doors in their bedroom, Lin Jiangwo and Li Qing could not fall asleep right away. Lin Jiangwo sat on the edge of the bed and lit another cigarette. Li Qing changed into her nightwear and sighed as she sat beside him. Lalin, do you think what Yang Yang said is real? We have such a peaceful life. How could the world end all of a sudden? Who can tell? Lin Jiangwo exhaled smoke. But he described the meteorite announcement perfectly. That can hardly be random luck. What if it really is just luck? Li Qing remained worried. If we sell our home and everything turns out to be a false alarm, where will we live? We'll lose a great deal of money. Lin Jiangwo shook his head. Losing money is trivial. If we're wrong, we can try buying another place later, treat it as a bad investment. But if he's telling the truth, he did not finish the sentence. Yet the meaning was clear. When the apocalypse arrived, their current low-lying apartment would become a death trap. Besides, he added, Yang Yang has always been reliable. Even if he's mistaken this time, as his parents, we owe it to him to see this through. Li Qing nodded, her eyes reddening. It's hard on the boy. He just graduated. While others are busy hunting for jobs and dating, he keeps dwelling on all these frightening things. I wonder what got into him. The two lay in bed, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. One moment they discussed how much they could sell their house for. The next they talked about supplies they should stockpile. They chatted until the wee hours before drifting off into a fitful sleep. Meanwhile, in Lin Yang's room, he sat at his desk, staring at his lit phone screen displaying a newly opened memo. Grain, drinking water, medicine, clothing, fuel, power generation equipment, water purification gear. He typed line after line, the list growing longer and longer. Every so often, he tested his spatial ability, stowing a pen away or bringing out a notebook, fascinated by the process. With this space, stockpiling supplies was like cheating. Yet one question lingered in his mind. Where exactly had this space come from? Was it truly an awakened supernatural ability ahead of time? Or was it connected to the ancestral jade pendant that had vanished? He pondered for a long time without reaching an answer and decided to set the thought aside. No matter its origin, it was a gift he could use. His top priority was to finalize the house purchase and gather all supplies before the torrential rains arrived. Over the next 2 days, the family split into 3 teams. Lin Guojian met real estate agents to list their old property and kept a close eye on housing listings in Shanghua residential compound. Li Qing visited the bank to sort out all their savings and the maturity dates of their wealth management products. Lin Yang stayed cooped up in his room, refining his supply list and plans for house reinforcement. He chose not to tell his parents about the jade pendant and the spatial realm for now. It was not that he distrusted them. The matter was far too inconceivable. He would find a proper time to reveal everything once they settled into their new home. That night, Lin Yang finished revising the reinforcement plans and stretched, his body aching all over. Sitting continuously for 2 days had left his waist screaming in discomfort. He stood up and poured a cup of hot water. As he gripped the mug, a sudden thought struck him. He had only tried storing and retrieving small items before and had never truly explored what lay inside the space. In his past life, he had only heard of spatial abilities. How large could his own space be? He closed his eyes, focused his mind, and thought, let me go inside and see. The scenery before his eyes shifted abruptly. In the next instant, He was standing in an unfamiliar realm. Overhead stretched a gray sky. There was no sun, yet light spread evenly in all directions, opening onto boundless vistas. Beneath his feet lay fertile black soil, so dark and rich it seemed to glisten. Rough estimation told him it spanned well over 100 acres, stretching out flat and unbroken. Not far away bubbled a clear spring. Its waters were crystal clear, surging steadily from the springhead, wreathed in faint white mist. Even several steps away, he could smell its crisp, sweet aroma. Beside the spring stretched an endless blank expanse, like an enormous warehouse whose boundaries faded into mist, impossible to see to the end. Lin Yang walked forward and touched the blank zone. A flood of information instantly surfaced in his consciousness. Storage space, unlimited capacity, absolute time stagnation. Anything placed within remained exactly as it was when stored. Food would never spoil, metal would never rust, and even temperature would be locked permanently. Whatever state an object was in when put in would be preserved until it was taken out. Lin Yang gasped. Unlimited size? Frozen time? This was beyond extraordinary. That meant he could hoard endless supplies without worrying about storage space or expiration dates. Canned goods could last eternally, ice would never melt, and hot meals would still billow with steam when retrieved. He walked to the spiritual spring, knelt down, cupped some water, and brought it to his lips. The icy, sweet liquid slid down his throat, instantly refreshing his entire body. Fatigue from days of sleepless planning vanished completely. The stiffness in his waist and neck faded. His mind grew sharper, and every pore on his skin felt relaxed. It truly was a spiritual spring. Lin Yang stood up, gazing at the 100 acres of black farmland, the boundless warehouse, and the mist-shrouded spring. Joy threatened to overwhelm him. A thought suddenly occurred to him, and he glanced down at his chest. Moments later, information emerged in his mind. This pocket dimension originated from the ancestral jade pendant, bound to him by bloodline recognition. In his previous life, when the truck crashed, blood from his forehead had dripped onto the pendant. On the brink of death, he had inadvertently completed the recognition ritual. But his injuries had been far too severe, and consciousness slipped away before he could activate the space. Upon rebirth, the jade pendant had returned alongside his soul and merged into his body. Lin Yang finally understood. No wonder the pendant had vanished after he returned to the past. It had fused into him. No wonder other people's spatial powers were just tiny storage pockets while his was so overpowered. He could not help laughing out loud. Fate had treated him kindly. Having memories of the future was already a massive advantage, and now he possessed this incredible spiritual spring space. Torrential rains? Extreme cold? The undead? This time, he would not only ensure his parents survived, they would live better than anyone else. Lin Yang wandered through the space slowly, familiarizing himself with the terrain. The 100 acres of fertile black soil, watered by spring water, would surely yield abundant grain and vegetables, solving all future food worries. The spiritual spring water did more than ease exhaustion. Regular consumption would improve physical fitness and speed-wound healing. If his parents drank it, their health would strengthen, making it far easier to endure the extreme heat and cold to come. The unlimited warehouse was tailor-made for stockpiling supplies in the end times. With a thought, Lin Yang returned to his bedroom. He sat on the edge of the bed, calming his surging excitement, then pulled out his phone and scrapped his old supply list to rewrite it entirely. He only needed to ensure nothing was missing. Grain oil, rice, flour, compressed biscuits, canned meat and jerky. Start with dozens of tons as a base. Clothing for all seasons, quilts, sleeping bags, thermal underwear, all thickened and fleece-lined varieties in sufficient quantity. Common medicine, anti-inflammatory drugs, fever reducers, trauma medication, antibiotics. Buy as much as possible. Generators, solar panels, energy storage batteries, a complete power supply system. Water purification equipment, filter tablets, large volumes of bottled water. Safe drinking water was the bottom line. Tools, construction materials, wire mesh, steel plates, supplies for reinforcing the house could not be skimped on. Seeds, farm tools, fertilizer, the black farmland needed to be utilized. Daily necessities of all kinds, tissue paper, toiletries, seasonings. Lin Yang typed faster and faster, growing more enthusiastic by the second. A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth as he wrote. Things he had only dared to dream of in his past life were all within reach now. Once the list was finished, he began planning his timeline. The meteorite would strike in 5 days, and the torrential rains would arrive 10 days after that. Within half a month, he needed to sell the old house, purchase the new property, complete renovations, and stockpile supplies. Time was tight, but the space allowed him to gather goods discreetly without attracting attention. He planned to raise funds first, then source goods both online and offline. Large shipments would arrive via logistics, while smaller items could be stowed directly into the space without anyone noticing. Once they moved into Shanghua residential compound, he could bring the supplies out gradually. When his parents asked, he could claim he had rented a warehouse in advance, a believable explanation. Lin Yang set down his phone and walked to the window. Lights twinkled in thousands of households outside. Music from square dancing drifted up from the street below, and vehicles streamed along distant roads. Only half a month of peaceful days remained. Most people still immersed themselves in ordinary happiness, unaware that a global catastrophe was approaching. He exhaled softly. In this lifetime, he had no power to save the world. He only wanted to protect his parents, guard his small family, and live steadily through the end times. As for everything else, he would take things one step at a time. After all, the cards he held now were far better than those he had in his previous life. Early the next morning, steamed soybean milk and fried dough sticks sat steaming on the dining table. Lin Yang bit into a dough stick and spoke casually. "Dad, Mom, roughly how much savings do we have? I've done the calculations. Buying the new house and stockpiling supplies will cost a fortune." He guessed that his parents, ordinary office workers all their lives, probably had at most 8 to 1 million yuan. Together with the proceeds from selling their old house, they would scrape together several million, and every cent would need careful budgeting. Li Qing took a sip of soybean milk and replied offhandedly, "Savings? Roughly 50 million. Cough." Lin Guojian choked violently, shooting Li Qing a sharp warning glance, his face turning red. Li Qing caught on at once, fell silent, and stared down at her bowl of food. The fried dough stick slipped from Lin Yang's hand and clattered onto the plate. 50 million? 50 million yuan. He stared at Lin Guojian, raising his voice in shock. "Dad, what's going on? Over 50 million? You two hid savings worth nearly 100 million. Lin Guojian set down his chopsticks, looking slightly embarrassed, and cleared his throat. "Well, last year, I passed a lottery stand and bought a ticket on a whim. I hit the grand prize. After tax deductions, I received 45,400,000 yuan. Combined with our original 5 million savings, it adds up to exactly 50 million. Lin Yang was stunned. Throughout his 4 years of university, he had lived frugally. Even buying a decent lipstick for Lu Ruyan felt like a luxury, and he had survived on instant noodles to save money for dates. Meanwhile, his own father had won 50 million yuan in the lottery and kept it a complete secret, not breathing a word to him. His ability to keep confidential information was wasted on civilian life. "Dad, why didn't you tell me you won such a huge prize?" Lin Yang asked in disbelief. "I thought we were just an average working-class family. I was even considering extreme ways to scrape together money for supplies. What would telling you accomplish? Would you have focused on your studies?" Lin Guojin huffed. "Young people easily get carried away if they hold large sums of money. I planned to bring the money out to support you when you got married and bought a home." Li Qing nodded in agreement. "Your father's right. We haven't touched a penny of this money. It's all locked in 3-year fixed deposits." Lin Yang spent quite a while processing this earth-shattering revelation. He had prepared to pinch every penny and juggle funds. Now the budget was unlimited. With 50 million yuan in total, he could allocate 30 million for stockpiling supplies. Another 20 million for purchasing and renovating the new house, leaving ample reserves for emergencies. "All right, Mom and Dad." Lin Yang quickly shifted into planning mode, tapping the table. "Let's split the tasks clearly. 30 million goes to me, fully dedicated to purchasing supplies. 10 million for Dad, to handle the house purchase and renovations. 10 million for Mom, responsible for medical and pharmaceutical supplies." He paused, speaking solemnly. "Don't hesitate to spend the money. Soon enough, cash will be worthless. Human lives are what truly matter." Lin Guojian and Li Qing exchanged glances and nodded. News of the meteorite had proven accurate, so money no longer held much importance. The lives of their family of 3 were priceless. After breakfast, Lin Yang grabbed his bank card and headed out. His first step was to rent a warehouse. He needed a location to serve as a front for large deliveries. He could not simply pull goods into thin air out on the street. It would draw far too much attention. He visited the largest warehousing agency in the city and got straight to the point. "I need a warehouse on the outskirts, an independent enclosed yard, over 1,000 square meters, accessible by large trucks, with as few nearby residents as possible. I need it for a 1-month lease, available for use starting today." The agent looked him over, surprised. "Sir, only 1 month? Most leases run for at least 6 months. Are you stocking goods for an e-commerce promotion or moving short-dated inventory?" "Temporary turnover. Lin Yang replied vaguely. Privacy is essential. No unauthorized personnel allowed on the premises. The agent quickly pulled up property listings and drove him to a warehouse beside the Southern Logistics Park. It was an independent yard secured by large iron gates, spanning 1,200 square meters, with concrete flooring and high ceilings. Large trucks could reverse directly into the yard. The surrounding area consisted solely of logistics warehouses, with almost no residents, minimizing prying eyes. Lin Yang toured the site and was satisfied. I'll take this one. How much? Short-term rent costs more. 25,000 yuan for 1 month. Fine. Draw up the contract. I'll transfer payment right now. The agent stared in surprise. He had met decisive clients before, but never someone this straightforward. Though young, Lin Yang acted with unwavering efficiency, not even attempting to negotiate the price. He quickly prepared the contract, accepted the payment, and handed over the keys. Rest assured, sir. This area has 24-hour security patrols. It's completely safe. You can deliver goods anytime. Lin Yang took the keys and left without lingering, heading straight for the northern grain and oil wholesale market. It was Jingzhou's biggest grain and oil distribution hub, sourcing goods for the entire province. He sought out Wang's Grain Oil, the largest vendor in the market. The owner, Fat Wang, sat behind the counter cracking sunflower seeds. What can I get you? Fat Wang glanced up, assuming Lin Yang owned a small supermarket restocking inventory. I'm purchasing bulk supplies. Lin Yang pulled over a stool. 50 tons of Northeast long grain rice. 30 tons of flour, half high gluten, half medium gluten. Fat Wang stopped cracking seeds. How much? 50 tons? Don't kid me, young man. I'm busy. I'm serious. Lin Yang continued listing his orders. 5 tons each of millet, black rice, red beans, mung beans, and oats. 1,000 cartons of dried noodles, 2,000 cartons of instant noodles, 500 cartons of compressed biscuits, 2,000 10-liter barrels each of peanut oil and rapeseed oil, 200 cartons of salt, sugar, soy sauce, vinegar, and every type of seasoning. He spoke casually, yet Fat Wang's eyes widened more and more. Sunflower seeds spilled from his hand onto the counter. Young brother, are you opening a chain of supermarkets? Or supplying company welfare? This amount could sustain an entire residential complex for half a year. I work in emergency supply distribution. Lin Yang fabricated an excuse. Just tell me if you have the stock, the total price, and how soon you can deliver. Fat Wang immediately realized he faced a major client. He tossed aside the seeds, grabbed a calculator, and tapped furiously, his plump cheeks jiggling. We have all the stock. My warehouse is fully stocked. I'll give you our wholesale bottom price. 2,860,000 yuan total. If you pay in full up front, I'll waive the surplus. 2,800,000 flat. Agreed. Lin Yang pulled out his phone. I'll transfer half the amount as a deposit first. The balance is due on delivery. Deliver in 3 batches, 1/3 each day. I'll send you the address. Don't ship everything at once to avoid attracting notice. Will do. No problem. Fat Wang grinned, his eyes crinkling shut. Rest assured, all goods will have the latest production dates. I'll arrange everything perfectly. Negotiations for grain and oil wrapped up by afternoon. Lin Yang grabbed a simple flatbread for lunch and drove to the suburban meat processing plant. Grain formed the foundation of survival, but meat was hard currency in the end times. In his past life, a piece of dried meat could be traded for half a sack of rice. Protein was more precious than gold. He found Manager Zhang from the sales department and offered him a cigarette. Manager Zhang, I want a large batch of frozen meat. We could establish long-term cooperation. Here's my initial order. Go ahead. Manager Zhang accepted the cigarette, assuming Lin Yang purchased supplies for restaurants. 20 tons of pork, half lean, half fatty. 15 tons of beef, 10 tons of mutton. 10 tons each of whole eviscerated chicken and duck. Lin Yang paused and added. 5 tons each of ribs, pork trotters, and assorted offal from pork, beef, and mutton. Everything must be fresh, frozen, and individually packaged. Manager Zhang nearly dropped his cigarette. How many tons? He had worked in sales for over 5 years and had never seen an individual customer place an order for dozens of tons of meat at once. Are you a frozen goods wholesaler? Or a major procurement officer for a fresh produce platform? I run wholesale operations. Lin Yang offered no extra details. Do you have the goods? Can you prepare everything within 3 days? Deliver via cold chain to the warehouse at the Southern Logistics Park. We have stock, plenty of it. Manager Zhang instantly grew enthusiastic. We just finished a slaughter batch, currently in freezing storage. I'll charge you factory direct pricing for 1,200,000 yuan total. Accepted. Lin Yang transferred half the deposit without hesitation. Start deliveries tomorrow. Send one batch each day. Avoid shipping everything together. The sun dipped low by the time he left the meat plant. Orange light spilled over the road. Summer warmth lingered in the evening breeze, mixed with the scent of poplar trees lining the street. Lin Yang sat in his car, staring at the order information on his phone, and let out a long breath. Grain and meat, the two core survival necessities, were secured. With these supplies in hand, they would not panic during the early phase of the disaster. He touched his chest, where the jade pendant space rested quietly inside him. Deliveries would begin tomorrow. Once the workers finished unloading and left, he could store everything into the space. No one would know a thing. The vehicle headed back into the city as streetlights flickered on one after another. Pedestrians wandered along the sidewalks. Barbecue smoke drifted from night market stalls, and young people laughed and chatted as they walked past. Early the next morning, Lin Yang headed straight for the commodity wholesale market. Grain, oil, and meat secured survival, while daily necessities defined the quality of life. He never wanted to relive the days in the apocalypse when paper and laundry detergent ran scarce, leaving him sticky and uncomfortable all over. The wholesale market had just opened. The air hummed with noise, mixed with the scents of plastic, laundry detergent, and new fabrics. Lin Yang found the largest general merchandise wholesaler and slid a shopping list across the counter without hesitation. 500 cartons each of facial tissue and toilet roll, 100 cartons of wet wipes, 200 large family-sized barrels apiece of laundry liquid, shampoo, and body wash, 500 sets each of toothpaste, toothbrushes, and soap. Stock up heavily on sanitary pads and pantaliners, 300 packs of each, 200 cartons each of garbage bags, cling film, disposable tableware, and paper cups. The shop owner scribbled furiously, growing increasingly stunned as he wrote, nearly dropping his pen. Young man, are you stocking goods for a chain supermarket or purchasing supplies for a company's staff benefits? New community chain store opening soon, Lin Yang replied casually. I also need 50 sets each of towels, bath towels, and bed linen. 30 sets each of quilts, mattress pads, and heavy sleeping bags rated for -20°C. What about clothes and shoes? The owner looked up and asked. Get those too. Lin Yang had planned everything long before. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter innerwear, jackets and trousers, 20 sets each for men and women. Fully matched from undergarments to outer layers. Long, thick down coats, fleece thermal underwear, and enough shorts and short-sleeve tops. Also footwear, slippers, sports shoes, cotton boots, and high rubber rain boots, 30 pairs of each, covering sizes 36 to 44. After tallying everything up, the total came to more than 1.8 million yuan. Lin Yang paid the deposit promptly, confirmed the delivery time, then plunged into the hardware tool section. Axes, machetes, entrenching tools, iron wire, nails, waterproof adhesive tape, lighters, candles, high-power flashlights, rechargeable batteries. He placed orders for every tool and survival supply he could think of. In the apocalypse, reliable tools were a second life. Meanwhile, at the property agency in Shanghua residential compound, Lin Jiangwo clutched his bank card with a budget of 10 million yuan. His mind clear, 7 million for the house, 3 million for renovations, every penny to be put to good use. He sought out a trusted local agent and spoke plainly. I want a top-floor corner unit with exclusive access to the rooftop terrace, unobstructed views. Full payment, transfer completed within 3 days. The agent perked up instantly at the mention of full payment and led him straight to the best building in the complex. Built halfway up South Mountain, Shanghua residential compound stood on the highest ground in Jingzhou. It had 15 floors, wide spacing between buildings, and neatly maintained greenery. Unit 1501 was an east-facing apartment with a registered area of 152 square meters, 3 bedrooms, 2 living rooms, and 2 bathrooms. The rooftop terrace, roughly 100 square meters, belonged exclusively to the unit, commanding views overlooking most of the southern district. The landlord had originally planned to build a rooftop garden, but abandoned the project halfway out of trouble. He listed it at 7.2 million yuan, in no rush to sell. Lin Jiangwo stepped onto the terrace. Wind brushed past his ears, and he could see streets and buildings stretching far into the distance. A top-floor unit was ideal. It sat on higher ground, safe from flooding during heavy rains, and difficult for outsiders to reach. When chaos broke out, it would be 10 times safer than any ground-floor home. He made up his mind on the spot. What's the landlord's lowest offer? Lin Jiangwo asked. Sir, the landlord will come down to 7.1 million at minimum. He won't negotiate further below that. The agent smiled anxiously. 7 million, full payment. We sign the contract tomorrow, and the full sum is transferred within 3 days, Lin Jiangwo said firmly, without the slightest hesitation. Ask him if he accepts. If not, I'll view another unit of the same layout. The agent froze. Most buyers haggled relentlessly over small change, yet this man cut directly to a round number and offered quick full payment. He immediately called the landlord. Hearing about the full payment with no waiting period for mortgage approval, the landlord agreed without delay, fearing Lin Jiangwo might change his mind. He arrived within half an hour to sign the preliminary sales contract. The online filing for property transfer was completed that same afternoon with remarkable efficiency. With the house secured, Lin Jiangwo contacted the most reputable renovation crew in the city right away. With a 3 million yuan renovation budget, he intended to turn this top-floor apartment into an impenetrable stronghold. He laid out all renovation requirements in clear, organized points. Replace all windows with ballistic-resistant tempered insulated glass, fitted with detachable steel protective panels on the exterior that can seal the space completely during extreme cold or heat. Swap the entrance door for a heavy-duty anti-burglary explosion-proof security door with 3 locking systems. And install an additional fire partition door at the stairwell entrance on the 15th floor. Completely rework the rooftop waterproofing with 3 layers. Add thick extruded polystyrene insulation boards. And apply polyurethane thermal insulation across all exterior walls. Build a 1.5-meter solid brick wall around the terrace perimeter, topped with spiked galvanized chain-link fencing to enclose the entire space. Construct a tempered glass sunroom covering half the terrace with reserved ventilation openings for growing vegetables later. Leave foundations on the other half for a full solar panel array paired with energy storage batteries, alongside an air source heating and cooling system. Install 2 5-ton large-capacity water storage tanks in the corner to collect and filter rainwater for backup use. Rewire all indoor plumbing and electricity. Reserve sufficient interfaces for high-power equipment, and add extra insulation boards to all interior walls. The foreman tapped away on his calculator for a long time before looking up. Sir, your standards are high, and all materials must be premium grade. The total comes to roughly 2.6 million yuan. With a normal construction timeline of 20 days, I'll give you 3 million. Lin Jiangwo raised the budget directly. Use top-quality materials, no cutting corners. Can you finish everything within 10 days? The foreman's eyes lit up. The extra 400,000 yuan meant pure profit. Absolutely. We can do it. He slapped his chest to guarantee results. I'll assign 2 teams working rotating shifts day and night to finish on schedule. Quality is guaranteed. Deduct payment from my fee if anything falls short. Elsewhere, Li Qing met Zhang Lei, a familiar pharmaceutical representative. Li Qing had worked as an internal medicine physician at a top tertiary hospital for 20 years. She had cooperated with Zhang Lei for more than 5 years, so they knew each other well. They met at a cafe near the hospital, and Li Qing handed over a handwritten list. Zhang Lei unfolded it, his brows drawing tighter as he read. Sister Li, common cold medicine, fever reducers, anti-inflammatory drugs, gastrointestinal medication. I can supply any quantity you need. Consumables such as iodophor, gauze, alcohol, and bandages are also readily available. He tapped the latter half of the list. But oxygen concentrators, patient monitors, these broad-spectrum antibiotics, and controlled anesthetic medications are impossible. They are strictly regulated, and inspections are rigorous. I cannot source these. Li Qing had anticipated this response. She sipped her coffee calmly and spoke in a steady tone. Zhang Lei, I'll be honest with you. These supplies are reserves for my family. My elderly relatives have poor health, and I want to be prepared for emergencies. I understand the regulations and won't put you on the spot. I will pay 3 times the market price. Deliver the goods to a warehouse in the Southern District. You don't need to handle anything else. I take full responsibility if any trouble arises. Hesitation crossed Zhang Lei's face. 3 times the standard price. This single order would earn him as much as he made over half a year. There were risks, yet the profit was enormously tempting. He gritted his teeth and tapped his fingers on the tabletop. Sister Li, given our long acquaintance, I'll speak frankly. I can source brand new medical equipment through distributor channels. But the pharmaceuticals will require special supply routes and cannot go through official company accounts. Besides, these items are heavily policed. I'm taking substantial risks. If caught, I'll lose my job. 4 times the market rate. Li Qing raised the offer without pause. Money is not an issue, but the goods must be authentic and delivered in full quantity. Zhang Lei took a deep breath. 4 times the price. He would take the deal. At worst, he could take half a year off after completing this order. All right, Sister Li, I'll get everything arranged. All supplies will be ready and delivered within 3 days. But let's make this clear first. This stays between us. Not a word can leak out to anyone. Rest assured. Li Qing nodded, transferring half the deposit immediately. By evening, the first batch of supplies began arriving at the Southern District warehouse. Grain, edible oil, daily necessities, and hardware tools filled half the warehouse, stacked into towering piles. Once the workers finished unloading and signed the delivery slip, they drove away. Only Lin Yang remained inside the warehouse. He locked the large iron gate and secured it from within. After confirming there was no one nearby and no surveillance camera captured the warehouse interior, Lin Yang relaxed. He looked at the mountains of supplies and focused his mind. The next instant, his vision blurred. Mounds of rice, flour, cooking oil, tissue paper, and tools vanished completely, neatly sorted and stored within the infinite storage space of his ability. Lin Yang mentally inspected the inventory and felt satisfied. Time stood permanently still inside the space. Nothing would ever spoil. It was far more reliable than any cold storage or grain silo. He locked the empty warehouse and drove home. When he arrived, Lin Jiangwo and Li Qing had also returned not long before. 3 bowls of hand-pulled noodles sat on the dining table, and the 3 sat down to share updates over dinner. The property is settled, a top-floor unit on the 15th floor with exclusive rooftop terrace, purchased for 7 million yuan, Lin Jiangwo said, picking up his chopsticks. 3 million allocated for renovations. The construction crew starts work tomorrow and will finish within 10 days. Elevated location, excellent views, safe from flooding, ideal security. The pharmaceuticals and medical equipment are confirmed for delivery within 3 days, Li Qing added. I've placed orders for grain, meat, daily supplies, and tools. Deliveries will arrive in batches over the next few days, Lin Yang said. The 3 exchanged glances and exhaled in relief. The 10 million yuan budget was fully allocated. Every plan moved forward on schedule, even faster than they had expected. The next morning, millet congee and fresh meat buns sat on the dining table. Steam carried the aroma of baked dough through the house. Lin Jiangwo bit into a bun and spoke with his mouth full. After breakfast, I'll head to Shenghua compound to supervise the construction crew starting today. I'll monitor materials and progress to prevent them cutting corners. Li Qing nodded, picking up some pickled vegetables. I will coordinate with Zhang Lei today. The first shipment of medicine and equipment arrives, and I need to verify expiry dates and quantities. These supplies cannot be treated lightly. Lin Yang finished his congee and set down his spoon. I'm heading to the outdoor goods market. We need inflatable boats and kayaks. They can save lives if the city floods during heavy rains. I'll also stock durable outdoor gear, all waterproof and insulated. The family divided their tasks clearly. After eating, they grabbed their bags and set off in separate directions. Lin Yang drove straight to the largest outdoor goods wholesale market on the outskirts of the city. The moment he stepped inside, he smelled canvas mixed with rubber. Shelves overflowed with merchandise, lined with tents, climbing ropes, and hanging waterproof jackets. He found the biggest shop in the market, run by a tan middle-aged man everyone called Old Joe. Shopkeeper, I need serious equipment. Lin Yang came straight to the point. 2 heavy-duty puncture-resistant inflatable kayaks, 2 aluminium rigid inflatable boats, complete with motors, oars, and 30 adult life vests. Old Joe's eyes lit up. A major customer had walked in. Got it. All reinforced and puncture-proof, guaranteed reliable. Anything else? 20 sets each of waterproof, windproof, fleece-lined hardshell jackets and trousers for men and women, sizes M to XXL. 20 pairs each of high-cut waterproof hiking boots in the same sizing. Lin Yang paused, then added, 30 sleeping bags rated for -30 degrees Celsius. 50 sets each of moisture-proof mats, climbing ropes, and entrenching tools. Old Joe scribbled frantically, his pen moving non-stop. After calculating the total, the bill reached over 800,000 yuan. Lin Yang paid the deposit without hesitation and arranged delivery to the southern warehouse that afternoon. He turned to leave, then caught sight of a stack of army green cotton overcoats piled in the corner. Thick, tightly stitched, heavy to lift, carrying the scent of new cotton batting. Lin Yang slowed his steps. In extreme cold, even the thickest down jackets struggled against temperatures dozens of degrees below zero. These vintage military cotton overcoats were true lifesavers, blocking wind and retaining heat well enough to sleep wrapped inside. Shopkeeper, how much are these cotton overcoats? 80 yuan apiece, stuffed with genuine quality cotton, solid and warm. Old Joe walked over. I can give you a discount if you buy in bulk. How many do you have in your warehouse? About 200, plus matching cotton caps, insulated gloves, and heavy snow boots. I'll take all of them. Lin Yong waved his hand. Deliver everything to the warehouse together. Old Zhou grinned widely and agreed at once. Leaving the outdoor goods shop, Lin Yong pondered. His stockpile kept growing. Yet his old sedan lacked capacity for transport. It would not hold up on rough roads in the future. He needed a rugged off-road vehicle. High ground clearance, capable of wading through water. Sturdy and durable for torrential rains and rough terrain. An essential survival vehicle for the apocalypse. Without further thought, he turned the steering wheel and headed for the auto mall. The auto mall was quiet in the afternoon. Brightly lit showrooms displayed polished new cars reflecting ceiling lights. As Lin Yong walked into the domestic off-road vehicle showroom, he nearly collided with two people. Lu Yanran linked arms with a man around 30, pointing at a sedan and chatting cheerfully. Their eyes met. Lu Yanran first looked surprised, then a mocking smile tugged at her lips. Well, isn't this Lin Yong? Her voice carried just far enough for nearby shoppers to hear. What brings you here? Handing out flyers part-time? Working hard so soon after graduation. The man beside her wore a floral shirt and a gold watch on his wrist. He sized Lin Yong up and scoffed. An old classmate of yours, Yanran? Sales work here isn't easy. You won't earn much if you can't sell a couple of cars each month. Lin Yong glanced at them briefly, uninterested, and stepped forward to walk past. Lu Yanran grew more determined and followed him in her high heels, blocking his path. Hey, I'm talking to you. Could you actually be here to buy a car? She folded her arms, radiating superiority. Vehicles here don't come cheap. The cheapest models start at over 100,000. Fresh out of university, can your family afford that? Don't bite off more than you can chew. You'll lose face if you can't cover the deposit later. The man in the floral shirt echoed her words. Young man, buying a car requires being realistic. You'd be better off finding a stable job and saving money for a couple more years. Lin Yong stopped and raised an eyebrow at her. What I can afford has nothing to do with you. I'm just looking out for you, Lu Yanran pouted. You pursued me for 4 years. I know exactly what your family's circumstances are. Ordinary working-class folks. You shouldn't squander your savings recklessly. She spoke with feigned concern, her gaze filled with the conviction that she understood him completely. Lin Yong almost laughed out of exasperation. In her eyes, he would forever remain that penniless student chasing after her. Move aside. He had no patience for idle chatter, stepping around her and walking deeper into the showroom. An older sales associate glanced at Lin Yong. Dressed in jeans and a plain white t-shirt, he looked youthful. Hardly like someone who could afford a vehicle worth hundreds of thousands. The associate sauntered over with a dismissive attitude. Take your time. Call me if you see something you like. He then turned back to scroll on his phone, not even offering a glass of water. Lin Yong paid him no mind. He spotted a young trainee saleswoman standing in the corner. Ponytail tied back, clutching brochures nervously, clearly newly hired. He waved her over. Excuse me, come here for a moment. The young woman hurried forward, cheeks flushed. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Zhou. Are you interested in any particular model? The black vehicle displayed in the center, top trim level. What is the on-road price? Lin Yong gestured toward the flagship rugged off-road vehicle at the center of the showroom. Zhou quickly checked her notes. This is the top-spec variant equipped with 3 differential locks, capable of wading through 90 centimeters of water. The full on-road cost is 498,000 yuan. Very well. Lin Yong pulled out his bank card and held it out. I'll take this one black. Do you have an available unit? Can I complete the paperwork and drive it away today? Zhou froze on the spot, eyes wide in disbelief, convinced she had misheard. Yes, sir. Would you like to review the specifications first? Don't you want a test drive? No need. This one. Lin Yong pushed the card forward. Full payment. Process the formalities immediately, as quickly as possible. Their conversation was loud enough for the older sales associate and Lu Yanran by the entrance to hear. The older associate jumped to his feet, nearly dropping his phone. He rushed over with a forced smile. Young man, my apologies earlier. Let me handle this for you. I know all the procedures and can speed things up. No need. Lin Yong raised a hand to stop him, looking at him with a faint smile. Weren't you busy just now? Let her process the order. The older associate's face turned pale with embarrassment, rooted to the floor, consumed by regret. This was a full cash sale worth nearly 500,000 yuan, bringing a commission of almost 10,000 yuan. The opportunity had slipped right past him. Lu Ruyan and the man in the floral shirt froze, standing in the doorway, caught between entering and leaving. The sneer on Lu Ruyan's face stiffened, replaced by utter disbelief. A $50,000 vehicle, bought outright in full payment? Since when had Lin Yang's family had so much money? If he could afford this, why hadn't he splurged on a luxury handbag when pursuing her? The man in the floral shirt was equally mortified. Moments earlier, He'd lectured Lin Yang to stay grounded. And now his cheeks burned with embarrassment. The paperwork was processed surprisingly quickly. The temporary license plate was printed, and the keys handed over in less than 40 minutes. Lin Yang climbed into the driver's seat, adjusted his seat, and turned on the ignition. The engine let out a low, resonant hum. He rolled down the window and glanced at Lu Ruyan, whose face alternated between pale and flushed, and the dejected senior salesperson beside her. A smirk tugged at his lips. "How's that sting, you two?" With that, he gently pressed the gas pedal. The black SUV glided smoothly out of the showroom, leaving everyone inside staring at one another in silence. Lu Ruyan stood rooted to the spot, her nails digging hard into her palms. She could not wrap her head around it. The penniless young man she'd rejected countless times had suddenly bought a $50,000 vehicle outright. If only she'd known he was this wealthy. Should she not have spoken so harshly back then? Unfortunately, there was no turning back time. Lin Yang drove his new car along the road, wind streaming through the window, his mood light. It was not the satisfaction of humiliating others that pleased him. The SUV was genuinely practical. Its high ground clearance made it rugged, perfect for wading through floodwaters and tackling rough terrain once disaster struck. Putting Lu Ruyan in her place was merely a side benefit. He glanced at the time on his phone, just past 3 in the afternoon. It was time to head to the warehouse to collect goods and store all the outdoor supplies inside his space. As the vehicle moved forward, sunlight glinted brightly off its body. The black SUV cruised out of the auto mall. In the rearview mirror, Lu Ruyan's rigid figure shrank further and further away. Lin Yang let out a quiet scoff and looked away. For years of obsession, the regrets carried over from his past life. With that single taunt, he had finally closed that chapter for good. The end of the world drew near. He could barely safeguard his own life. There was no room left for tangled romantic feelings. He turned on the car stereo, and upbeat music drifted out through the open window, carried away by the wind. He had only driven 2 intersections when his phone rang. It was Li Qing. "Yang, where are you?" Li Qing's voice sounded anxious. Zhang Lei delivered all the medicine and equipment to the outer warehouse at the South City Pharmaceutical Company. Piles of goods are everywhere, and I can't move them all by myself. "All right, Mom. I'm on my way." Lin Yang clarified the exact address, spun the steering wheel around, and headed straight for the pharmaceutical warehouse. 20 minutes later, he pulled up outside the warehouse gate. It was an independent small storage facility with its iron gate wide open, packed to the brim inside. Cardboard boxes were stacked neatly in piles half a person's height. Oxygen concentrators and electrocardiogram monitors were secured in wooden crates, looking extremely heavy. Zhang Lei was going through the inventory with 2 workers, while Li Qing stood nearby, checking items one by one against a checklist. "Mom." Lin Yang walked inside. Li Qing turned around at the sound of his voice and heaved a sigh of relief. "Thank goodness you're here. There's far too much cargo to transport. Your father's construction crew just started work. He can't get away." Zhang Lei offered him a cigarette, which Lin Yang declined with a wave. The two double-checked everything against the list. All medicines, supplies, and equipment matched the order, genuine products without exception. Lin Yang settled the remaining balance on the spot. "Ms. Li, Brother Lin, everything's accounted for. We'll be off then." Zhang Lei smiled politely. "Call me anytime if you need more supplies in the future." "Sure. Thanks for your hard work." Zhang Lei and the workers drove off, leaving the warehouse quiet, only the mother and son remaining. Staring at the mountains of boxes, Li Qing frowned with worry. "We'll need a delivery truck for all this, especially those 2 large machines. Should I book a cargo van?" "No need." Lin Yang smiled. "Stand back a little, Mom. I'll show you something." Confused, Li Qing stepped back and leaned against the wall. Lin Yang took a deep breath and focused his mind on the nearest box of cold medicine. He directed his thought. Whoosh. The cardboard box vanished out of thin air. Li Qing. Her eyes widened abruptly. She rubbed them, convinced she was seeing things. Before she could process what had happened, Lin Yang continued. 1 box, 2 boxes, 10 boxes. Case after case of medicine, supplies, even the oxygen concentrators strapped in wooden frames, disappeared one after another as if carried away by invisible hands. In less than half a minute, the entire warehouse floor was empty, not even scraps of packaging left behind. Silence hung thick in the air. Li Qing stood there, mouth agape, eyes wide, unable to utter a word for a long time. She leaned against the wall, her legs trembling slightly, voice shaky. Yang, where did everything go? Are you performing magic?" Lin Yang stepped forward to support her and led her to sit on a clean step. "It's not magic, Mom." He spoke slowly, laying out the whole truth about the jade pendant space. The ancestral jade pendant had bonded with his blood as he died in the apocalypse in his previous life. After his rebirth, it had merged into his body. Inside lay an infinite storage space where time stood still, alongside a spiritual spring and 100 mu of fertile black soil. He recounted everything plainly, without embellishment. Li Qing remained stunned long after he finished speaking. She reached out and touched Lin Yang's chest. The jade pendant was long gone. You mean, that jade passed down from your grandmother is a treasure like this? Yes. Lin Yang nodded. In my past life, my blood spilled onto it right before I died, triggering the spiritual bond. It came back with me after I was reborn, and I only fully awakened it a few days ago. I planned to wait until things settled before telling you and Dad, afraid you wouldn't be able to accept it. Li Qing clutched her chest, steadying her breath before letting out a long sigh. My goodness, no wonder you kept talking about stockpiling supplies without worrying about storage space. You've had this treasure all along. Her eyes grew moist. Our ancestors are watching over our family. Without this, surviving the apocalypse would be impossible. The moment she finished speaking, she grabbed Lin Yang's arm, her expression turning grave. Not a word of this to outsiders. Not a single whisper. Wealth hidden from sight. And this treasure is worth far more than any money. If word spreads, our whole family will be in mortal danger. I know, Mom. Lin Yang nodded. Only the three of us will know. I'll tell Dad once his work slows down, so we don't slip up accidentally. Li Qing nodded repeatedly, still shaken by what she'd seen, and curiosity soon got the better of her. Is there really a spring inside the space? Can we grow crops there? It's all true. Lin Yang smiled. Water from the spiritual spring strengthens the body. Once we move into the new shelter, I'll draw water for you and Dad every day to improve your health. The black soil makes crops grow rapidly, so we'll never go hungry. Li Qing's face lit up. The anxiety weighing on her mind for days faded away. She had worried constantly about insufficient supplies and the hardships ahead. With this space, she felt completely confident. Let's go, Mom. Lin Yang stood up. There's another warehouse stocked with grain, oil, and outdoor gear. We'll collect all of it and head home afterward. They locked the pharmaceutical warehouse, got into the car, and drove toward the logistics park in the south of the city. When Lin Yang pushed open the iron gate of the second warehouse, Li Qing was stunned all over again. The 1,000-square-meter warehouse was filled to the rafters. Rice, flour, and cooking oil towered like small mountains. Tissue paper, clothing, and tools were stacked neatly, stretching as far as the eye could see. You rascal! Li Qing felt a mix of amusement and surprise. You've secretly hoarded this much? I thought you'd only ordered a small amount. With the space available, stockpiling more puts my mind at ease. As Lin Yang spoke, he focused his concentration. Mountains of supplies began vanishing rapidly. Sacks of rice, flour, and barrels of oil disappeared pile by pile. Li Qing stood by, marveling non-stop, quietly murmuring prayers for their ancestors. In less than 10 minutes, the enormous warehouse stood empty. Every supply was neatly arranged inside the storage zone of his space, sorted into clear categories. They locked the warehouse, returned the keys, and drove home. The sun sank low, casting an orange glow over the streets, stretching tree shadows long across the road. Seated in the passenger seat, Li Qing's spirits were noticeably lifted, firing off one question after another. Can living creatures stay inside the space? Could we raise chickens later? Can the spring water be used to water plants? What about my potted green vines at home? Will we even need heating in winter? Could we stay inside the space instead? Lin Yang answered each question patiently with a smile. The car pulled into their residential complex and parked downstairs. Lin Jiangwo had already returned, sitting on the sofa drinking water, covered in sweat. You're back. He looked up at them. Progress is good today. The workers are operating 2 shifts. Renovations will definitely finish within 10 days. Li Qing walked over and handed him a cup of warm water. She was burning to talk about the space, but Lin Yang caught her eye and shook his head. There was no rush. They would explain everything after dinner. After supper, warm lamplight filled the living room. A small account book and a calculator lay spread across the coffee table. The family of 3 sat around it to tally their finances. Lin Jiangwo put on his reading glasses and read each figure carefully. On my end, 7 million for the house, 2,900,000 as the advance payment for renovations. 10,000 left as spare cash for drinks and cigarettes for the construction workers. Your mother spent 8 million on medicine and medical equipment, leaving 2 million intact. What about you, Yang Yang? Lin Yang scrolled through transfer records on his phone without lifting his head. Grain, oil, meat, daily necessities, outdoor gear, and the new vehicle cost 25 million. 5 million remains. Once they finished calculating, The three exchanged glances. They had started with 50 million. After 3 days of preparations, only 7,100,000 remained. This sum would have been unimaginable to them before, but facing the coming apocalypse, Lin Yong thought it was still not enough. Don't leave the remaining money sitting idle. Lin Yong tapped his fingertips on the table. Mom, use your 2 million to stock up on cooked food and ready meals. Li Qing blinked. Cooked food? Why stockpile so much? It won't stay fresh. It will inside the space. Time stands still there. Nothing will ever spoil. Lin Yong counted off on his fingers. Breakfast goods, frozen buns, dumplings, siomai and flatbreads. Get all varieties. Braised meats, seasoned stews, and prepared meat platters. Plenty of meat dishes. Also order large quantities of self-heating hot pot, self-heating rice, and pre-made meals. He paused and added, once the apocalypse hits, water and power will be cut off. Cooking will waste fuel and valuable time. Having ready-to-eat meals we can heat up quickly will be convenient and safe. Li Qing immediately understood and nodded vigorously. You're farsighted. Tomorrow I'll head straight to the wholesale food market and buy all the frozen and preserved ready meals I can find. Once practical matters were settled, Li Qing's gaze wandered between Lin Yong and Lin Jiangwo. She hesitated, a smile tugging at her lips, like a child hiding candy. Lin Jiangwo set down the account book with a frown, eyeing them suspiciously. What's going on with you two today? Acting so secretive. He turned toward Li Qing. Did this boy get himself into trouble again? Nothing bad. Li Qing waved her hand with a grin. It's good news. Good news. Lin Jiangwo grew even more confused. Why not just say it instead of playing games? Lin Yong gave Li Qing a slight nod. If they planned to rely on the space long-term, his father would find out sooner or later. It was better to tell him now to avoid careless slips later. Dad, I need to tell you something. Prepare yourself, and try not to get too shocked. Lin Yong sat upright and told him the full story of the ancestral jade pendant, the blood bond formed at the moment of death, and the space awakened after his rebirth. He described the infinite storage zone, frozen time, spiritual spring, and 100 mu of fertile black soil, leaving out no details. 3 seconds of silence fell over the living room once he finished. Lin Jiangwo took off his reading glasses and stared at Lin Yong for a long moment, then reached out to feel his forehead. No fever. His frown deepened. Have you lost your mind from all this stockpiling talk? A spatial pocket? Why not say you can fly through the sky? He clearly did not believe a single word. Lin Yong did not argue. Words meant nothing compared to seeing it firsthand. He reached out, grabbing Lin Jiangwo with one hand and Li Qing with the other, and focused his mind. Enter. Light swirled around them. The next instant, all three stood on soft, fertile black soil. No living room lamps overhead. Above them stretched a pale, luminous sky. The air carried the earthy scent of soil mixed with the sweet freshness of the spiritual spring. Every deep breath washed over their bodies with comfort. Not far away, the spiritual spring bubbled steadily, a thin layer of white mist floating over its surface, resembling a fairyland. Further out, mountains of supplies were stacked neatly within the storage zone, stretching as far as the eye could see. Lin Jiangwo froze, his jaw dropping open. He removed his reading glasses, rubbed his eyes, put them back on, and repeated the motion several times. Only after doing this over and over did he accept that it was not an illusion. This is the space you spoke of? His voice wavered. Yes. Lin Yong nodded. The jade pendant passed down from Grandma, merged into my body after forming a blood bond with me. Li Qing linked arms with Lin Jiangwo and introduced everything excitedly. Look over there, old Lin. All those storage piles hold the supplies Yang collected. Nothing ever goes bad inside. Everything he stockpiled is right here. That spring is the spiritual spring. Its water boosts health. I tasted it. It's wonderfully sweet. Lin Jiangwo walked alongside them, marveling constantly. When they reached the storage area and saw towering stacks of grain, oil, medicine, and daily goods reaching high overhead, his mouth twitched. So this was where the boy had stashed all his supplies. All his earlier budgeting worries had been pointless. After touring the storage zone, they walked deeper toward the farmland. 100 mu of flat, rich black soil lay before them, dark and fertile, soft enough to sink into when stepped on. The land was empty, not a single blade of grass growing. Lin Jiangwo slowed to a halt as he walked. He knelt down, grabbed a handful of black earth and rubbed it between his fingers. His expression gradually turned stern. Lin Yong was about to explain how fertile the land was and talk about future planting plans. Before he could speak, a sharp tap landed on the back of his head. Ow! Lin Yong winced and clutched his scalp. Dad, why did you hit me? Hitting you is far too lenient. Lin Jiangwo glared angrily and tossed the soil onto the ground. You foolish boy. Such prime 100 mu black soil, and you leave it completely barren? He gestured toward the empty field, hands shaking with exasperation. Land this fertile could grow wheat and corn to yield massive harvests. All you do is buy supplies nonstop. Stockpiled goods will run out eventually. Lin Yang felt wronged. I've been busy preparing for the disaster. I haven't had time to start farming, and besides, I don't know how to work the land. I do, Lin Jingwo huffed. I spent 3 years farming out in the countryside when I was young. This work is nothing to me. Having grain of our own is true security. Relying entirely on purchased goods won't last forever. Self-sufficiency is the only long-term plan. He stood up and paced back and forth along the field ridges, muttering as he planned. We'll plant wheat and corn on the northern stretch first. Staple food comes first. The southern section near the spring will grow vegetables, cabbage, radishes, tomatoes, everything we eat daily. Plant soybeans and peanuts along the eastern edge to press cooking oil. We'll line the perimeter with fruit trees, apple, pear, and peach trees. He looked every bit like a veteran farm manager planning a vast farm. Li Qing laughed beside them. Your father's found his calling. He fussed endlessly over growing green onions on the balcony before. With 100 mu of land, he'll keep himself busy nonstop. Lin Yang rubbed the back of his head and muttered quietly. I wish I hadn't shown him this space. Got whacked the moment we stepped in. Even so, he felt a deep sense of peace. His father would manage farming, his mother would oversee food and medical provisions, and he would handle outside supply runs and security. With the three of them dividing tasks clearly, they were stronger than ever. When they stepped back out of the space, the living room clock struck 9. Lin Jingwo sat on the sofa, still reeling from everything he had witnessed. He took a sip of hot tea and burned his mouth, snapping him back to reality. Good heavens, what a miraculous treasure left by our ancestors. He sighed, then straightened his expression to assign tasks. Tomorrow is the 29th, the final day to prepare. We split up to get all farming equipment ready. Yang, head to the agricultural machinery market tomorrow. Lin Jingwo counted off the items on his fingers. 2 small tillers, 2 seed drills, 2 combine harvesters, 2 50-horsepower 4-wheel drive diesel tractors. Also water pumps, irrigation pipes, sprinklers, hose, sickles, and all other farm tools. Buy everything we can. Understood. Lin Yang jotted it all down. I'll purchase the seeds, Lin Jingwo continued. Grain seeds, vegetable seeds, oil crop seeds, plus fruit saplings. I know how to pick high-quality varieties. Li Qing chimed in. Then I'll head to the food wholesale market to finalize the 2 million order for cooked food and ready meals, and wrap up the last batch of medical supply negotiations. With their plans settled, everyone returned to their rooms to rest. Lin Yang lay on his bed and rolled over. Tomorrow would be June 29th. In the early hours of the day after tomorrow, the meteorite would crash into the Pacific Ocean. The countdown had officially begun. Dawn broke early the next morning, and the three of them headed out before the sky fully brightened. Lin Yang drove straight to the agricultural machinery market on the city outskirts. The market had only just opened. The air reeked of diesel and rust. Rows of farm machinery stood neatly. Tractors, harvesters, and tillers in shades of red and blue, built sturdy and tough. He walked up to the largest vendor stall, Wang's Farm Machinery. The owner, Wang Dachui, a dark-skinned burly man, squatted at the entrance polishing a machine. Shopkeeper, I'd like to buy some farm equipment. Wang Dachui glanced up at the young man and asked casually, what are you looking for? How many acres do you farm? 100 or so acres, Lin Yang replied vaguely. 2 small tillers, 2 seed drills, 2 combine harvesters, 2 4-wheel drive 50-horsepower diesel tractors. A full irrigation set including pumps, hoses, and sprinklers, all complete. The cleaning cloth slipped out of Wang Dachui's hand and clattered to the ground. He sized Lin Yang up and down, certain he had misheard. Young man, are you joking? 2 of each? You run a farm. I leased a mountain plot for cultivation. Lin Yang did not elaborate. Just tell me if you have stock and the total price. Everything's in stock, brand new. Wang Dachui immediately perked up and led him past each machine. Top-tier manufacturers, durable and easy to source spare parts if repairs are needed. I'll give you the wholesale price. 700,000 in total. Deal. Lin Yang pulled out his bank card. Full payment up front. Can you deliver today? Drop-off address. Warehouse 3, South City Logistics Park. Wang Dachui's eyes lit up. A huge order the moment he opened for business. Paid in full up front. Absolutely. I can get it done right away. I'll call my workers to load the goods, and everything will be delivered before noon. Grinning from ear to ear, he bustled about filling out invoices and arranging the workers, brimming with enthusiasm. Meanwhile, Lin Guojian was browsing the seed market with great focus. He had farmed in his youth and knew the trade well. Moving from stall to stall, he handled the seeds and examined their quality, appearing more knowledgeable than the vendors themselves. First, grain seeds, 50 gene each of high yield, disease-resistant winter wheat, spring corn, and hybrid rice. He also ordered 20 gene each of sorghum, soybeans, peanuts, and sesame, stocking up on oil crops and miscellaneous grains. Next came vegetable seeds, a comprehensive selection. Large sacks of storable varieties including Chinese cabbage, radishes, potatoes, and sweet potatoes. Tomatoes, cucumbers, eggplants, chili peppers, beans, lettuce, and spinach, covering vegetables suited for spring, summer, autumn, and winter. He even bought several gene of seeds for scallions, ginger, garlic, and coriander for seasoning. When he reached the sapling section, he picked 10 saplings each of apple, pear, peach, grape, and cherry trees, alongside strawberry and blueberry seedlings. Lastly, he purchased dozens of sacks of organic and compound fertilizer, plus common pesticides and herbicides. All the supplies filled an entire truck. Lin Guojian settled the payment, telling the driver to deliver everything to the South City warehouse. Hands behind his back, he left feeling thoroughly satisfied. With these seeds, the 100 mu of black soil could thrive, and they would never need to worry about food again. By midday, Li Qing had nearly finished her errands. The final batch of medical supplies and reserve pharmaceuticals arrived. Boxes of protective suits, masks, gloves, and intravenous equipment were stacked neatly. Zhang Lei stayed to help check the inventory, then smiled and offered her a cigarette. Everything's here, sisterly. Feel free to reach out anytime you need more stock. Li Qing smiled, but said nothing. Anytime. In just one more day, the world would change. No one could say if there would be a future to speak of. She paid the final balance, watched the workers unload the goods at the warehouse, then headed to the food wholesale market to place orders for prepared meals and ready-to-cook dishes. At a little past 2 in the afternoon, Lin Yang received a delivery call. The farm machinery had arrived at the warehouse. He drove over and watched workers unload tractors, harvesters, and tillers one after another, filling the whole yard. Brother, all equipment is here. You can count them. No need. Thanks for your hard work. Lin Yang signed the paperwork. Once the delivery truck departed, he locked the warehouse gate securely. After confirming no one was nearby, he focused his mind. The heavy farm machines vanished one by one, neatly settling beside the black soil inside his spatial storage. These machines would handle plowing, sowing, and harvesting from now on. With the farm machinery sorted, Lin Yang clapped his hands and prepared to meet Li Qing at the food market. As he pulled open his car door, his phone rang. An unfamiliar local number from Jingzhou. He answered casually. Hello, who's this? A soft female voice came from the line, tinged with cautious unease. Lin Yang, it's me, Lu Ruyan. Lin Yang's grip on the phone tightened abruptly. The familiar voice flooded his mind with memories of his past life, weighing heavy on his chest. Shortly after the doomsday broke out, public order collapsed and food grew scarce. Lu Ruyan had found him with eyes swollen red from crying, saying she had no food and would not survive much longer. He had softened his heart, and that had been his great mistake. He risked everything transporting supplies to bring her boxes of hardtack, canned meat, and clean bottled water. He barely kept any for himself. While he endured dry coarse grain cakes and bitter unprocessed water, she never lacked food. She always accepted everything he gave her, then looked at him with watery eyes and said, Lin Yang, I know you treat me well, but I'm still trapped in fear and not ready for a new relationship. Could you wait for me? That wait dragged on for 3 years. For 3 years, he catered to her endlessly, placing the best resources at her disposal. He even gave her the key to his apartment, Unit 301, Building 3 in the civilian district, so she would have a safe place to stay. And what came of it? She soon became involved with a squad leader from the survivor base and openly moved into his apartment. A neighbor confronted them one day. At first, Lin Yang listened out of idle curiosity until he heard the address, Unit 301, Building 3 in the civilian district. His mind went blank with rage. He slammed on the gas and raced back, consumed by fury over her betrayal. He failed to notice mutated brambles surging onto the road. In the end, his vehicle crashed, and he died with unresolved resentment. Grinding his teeth, Lin Yang's knuckles whitened under the strain. Indirectly, his death in his previous life was because of her. Now she tried to brush everything aside with a simple apology. What do you want? He suppressed his surging emotions, his tone ice cold. Back at the auto mall, I was wrong. I spoke harshly. Please don't take it to heart. Lu Ruyan maintained her gentle act. We've been classmates for years. We shouldn't fall out like this. Lin Yang stayed silent, letting her continue her performance. True to expectation, she shifted her tone once the pleasantries were done. Honestly, I used to think you were reckless and unreliable, which made me feel insecure. But now I see you're motivated and capable. She paused, her words carrying deliberate implication. How about we start over as friends and get to know each other again? Can we leave the past behind? Plain and simple. She had seen him pay full price for a $50,000 vehicle, realized he had money, and wanted to keep him as a backup option. He had suffered enough for her in his past life. He would not repeat the same mistake now that he had a second chance. Lu Rian. Lin Yang cut her off, completely devoid of warmth. Drop this pretense. I pursued you once because I was young and blind. I have no interest in that anymore. Lu Rian froze, panic edging into her voice. Lin Yang, why are you talking like this? I already took the initiative to apologize. An apology changes nothing. Lin Yang let out a cold scoff, speaking clearly and firmly. Chase you? Not a chance. Don't call me again. You're annoying. He hung up immediately and added her number to his blacklist. Peace returned. June 30th, before dawn broke. A rich aroma of braised pork and steamed buns drifted from the kitchen, mixed with the sweet scent of millet congee, filling the whole house. Lin Yang grabbed his car keys and was about to head out when Li Qing called him from the kitchen. Yang, wait. Put all this food into your spatial storage first. She carried out a stack of sealed, airtight containers, still steaming hot enough to sting her fingertips. Your father and I got up at 4 this morning to cook. We steamed rice made from 50 gene of grain, 200 steamed buns, and prepared 20 boxes of millet congee. All dishes are long-lasting. Braised pork, marinated beef, spiced chicken legs, and stewed ribs, separately packed. Lin Guojian followed behind carrying boxes, wiping sweat from his forehead. Store them in your space. They'll stay warm indefinitely. When trouble strikes and there's no time to cook, you can take them out and eat straight away, far better than canned food. Looking at the 2 full crates of home-cooked meals, Lin Yang's heart warmed. In the 3 years of the doomsday in his past life, he rarely got to eat a single warm homemade meal. In this life, with his parents beside him, even the impending end of the world carried the warmth of ordinary life. He focused his mind, and the crates vanished, neatly stacked in the most accessible area of the warehouse within his space. All stored safely, Mom, Dad. I'm heading out to handle some things. I'll be back tonight. Stay safe. Li Qing reminded him. Make sure you eat at noon. Don't skip meals. As soon as Lin Yang walked downstairs, his phone rang. It was Lin Guojian. Yang, the real estate agent just called. The old house has sold. The buyer is paying the full amount, $5 million. We have 5 days to move out. I told them to transfer the money directly to your bank account. You manage it as you see fit. Got it, Dad. Minutes after hanging up, a bank alert popped up on his screen. Notification. Account ending received a transfer of 5 million renminbi. Current balance. 5,287,650 renminbi. Lin Yang raised an eyebrow. He had just been wondering how to fund weapons purchases, and fortune had handed him the solution. 5 million was exactly enough to acquire heavy defensive gear. In the doomsday, he would have to guard against zombies, and even more so, other people. Without blades or firearms in hand, all his stockpiled supplies would only be treasure for others to seize. He turned the steering wheel and drove toward an abandoned steel factory on the city outskirts. It was the hub of Jingzhou's underground black market. Back when he worked transportation in his past life, he had connections there, knowing a middleman named Housie. They had arranged the meeting a day prior to inspect the merchandise today. The steel factory had lain abandoned for over a decade. Half the perimeter wall had crumbled, overgrown with waist-high weeds. The huge iron gate was heavily rusted. 2 men in black suits stood guard at the entrance, bulges visible at their waists, undoubtedly weapons. Lin Yang gave the prearranged code and mentioned Housie's name. The guard scanned him from head to toe and said coldly, "Search. Hand over your phone and put on the blindfold." Lin Yang cooperated, surrendering his phone and submitting to the body search. A black cloth covered his eyes, and 2 men led him forward by the arms. They twisted and turned for 5 full minutes, climbing steps and passing through iron gates. Faint machinery hum echoed in his ears. "We're here." The blindfold was removed, and harsh lamplight made him squint. Before him stretched a massive underground warehouse. Racks displayed various melee weapons. Wooden crates lined the corners, and the air reeked of rust, diesel, and cheap cigarettes. A sharp-featured man hurried over. It was Housie. "Brother Yang, long time no see." He rubbed his hands with a grin. "I've spoken with Brother Biao. Come with me." Inside the innermost office sat a bald man with a scar across his face and a tiger tattoo covering his left arm, his gaze fierce and menacing. This was the black market kingpin, Brother Biao. Kid, state what goods you want. Brother Biao held a cigarette, his voice hoarse. Lin Yang pulled out a chair and sat down, cutting straight to the point. 3 9mm handguns, top condition. 10,000 rounds of matching ammunition. 3 sharpened high manganese steel tang swords. 3 level 6 bulletproof vests complete with armor plates. 10 heavy-duty compound bows with a 120-pound draw weight. 100,000 steel arrows, evenly split between hunting arrowheads and standard heads. He listed the order concisely. Brother Biao looked up at him, surprise flickering across his face. Such a large order, placed by a young, unfamiliar face. Hardly the usual type to frequent this trade. I have all the stock. Brother Biao tapped ash from his cigarette. 6 million, no haggling. Lin Yang smiled. Brother Biao, we're both sensible men. No need for inflated prices. He leaned forward slightly. I know the bottom price for this batch. 5 million, full payment transferred on the spot. I plan to keep purchasing regularly. This is only our first deal. Quantities will grow in the future. We can enjoy steady long-term cooperation. One of the underlings immediately glared. Can you even bargain properly? Cutting 1 million off? You think this is a street market buying vegetables? Brother Biao raised a hand to silence his subordinate and stared at Lin Yang for a long time. The young man appeared youthful, yet his eyes were steady and unflustered, definitely no naive target to swindle. 5 million still left him a profit, albeit slimmer. Securing a repeat high-value customer was better than squeezing maximum gain from a single transaction. Deal. Brother Biao stubbed out his cigarette. 5 million. Consider this us making a new ally. He gestured to his subordinate. Go count the goods and let this brother inspect them. Half an hour later, all merchandise was verified. 3 brand new handguns still coated in protective oil, ammunition stacked neatly in crates. The tang swords were razor sharp. The bulletproof vests were factory sealed. The compound bows and arrows matched the ordered quantity exactly. Lin Yang inspected everything thoroughly and confirmed no defects. He transferred 5 million yuan immediately, leaving the remaining balance in his account as reserve funds. He packed all weapons into 2 large suitcases and carried them outside. Looking forward to future cooperation, Brother Biao. Brother Biao sat in his chair and waved without speaking. Once Lin Yang vanished around the corner, the underling stepped closer. Boss, just let him leave? That kid's clearly loaded with money. Brother Biao glanced at him, but said nothing. The subordinate understood and quietly stepped out, picking up a walkie-talkie. Lin Yang carried the suitcases out of the steel factory and stowed them in the vehicle's trunk. He did not drive off straight away. Standing beside the car, he lit a cigarette. From the corner of his eye, he spotted a figure darting behind a distant tree. Ambush and robbery. As expected, underground dealings never came without risk. He extinguished the cigarette and climbed into the vehicle, turning the engine on with a low rumble. They wanted to seize his cargo? They would need the luck to survive it. The off-road vehicle rolled along the dirt road. Far behind, a gray van began trailing him quietly. The gray van kept a distance of 200 to 300 meters, convinced they remained undetected. Glancing in the rearview mirror, Lin Yang curled his lip in a cold smirk. After 3 years surviving the doomsday, these clumsy tracking tactics were child's play to him. He drove calmly toward the warehouse area. The roads there were isolated and sparsely traveled, lined with abandoned side lanes. The perfect place to resolve this trouble. The SUV maintained a steady pace. The van behind grew bolder, certain Lin Yang had not noticed them. Turning at an intersection, Lin Yang slammed on the accelerator. Power surged through the rugged off-roader, shooting forward with a roar like an arrow released from a bow. The 4 gang members in the van panicked. Damn, he spotted us. Step on it, chase him. The driver pressed the gas pedal to the floor, and the van roared in pursuit. But an ordinary delivery van could never outrun a professional off-road vehicle. After rounding a bend beside an abandoned factory, the road ahead stood empty, no sign of the SUV. Shit, we lost him. The driver slammed his fist against the steering wheel and halted the van by the roadside. The 4 men climbed out grumbling and leaned against the vehicle to smoke. That guy's got a nice car. Must be a rich kid with plenty of cash. Ugh, our big catch slipped away. How do we explain to Brother Biao? As the words faded, a cold voice sounded behind them. Looking for me? The 4 gangsters spun around sharply. Lin Yang leaned against his SUV, holding a tang sword in hand, its scabbard glinting coldly in the sunset. Somehow, he had circled around behind them, his gaze frigid as the depths of winter. The gang leader, a blonde-haired youth, froze, then broke into a malicious grin. You brat, coming straight to us? He pulled a spring-loaded knife from his waist and waved it threateningly. Hand over the goods and tell us your bank pin. Otherwise, you won't leave here alive. The other 3 also drew weapons, spreading out to surround him in a semicircle. Lin Yong wasted no words. Reaching toward his waist, he pulled out a black handgun. Click, a bullet chambered. His movements were fluid and practiced. Clearly, he was no amateur. The smirks vanished from the gangsters' faces in an instant. They had assumed they were targeting a wealthy, defenseless young man, never expecting him to carry a gun and handle it with such proficiency. You wouldn't dare shoot. We still abide by the law in this era. The blonde youth's voice shook. Bang! The gunshot echoed sharply, resounding far across the deserted, abandoned road. A bullet hole appeared on the blonde man's forehead, and he collapsed straight to the ground. The remaining 3 were instantly terror-stricken, their legs trembling uncontrollably. They were only small-time gang members following orders. None had ever witnessed an actual killing. Run! Someone shouted, and all 3 turned to flee. Bang! Bang! 2 more shots rang out. 2 men crumpled to the ground. Only a thin, scrawny young man remained. Terrified, he dropped to his knees with a thud, crying frantically. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. It was Brother Biao's younger brother Biaozi who sent us. He thought you were an easy mark and ordered us to rob your goods and money. I'm just following orders. Lin Yong stepped forward and pressed the muzzle against the young man's forehead. The cold metal made him shake violently, barely holding back from losing control of his bladder. Biaozi? The black market's second-in-command. Yes, exactly him. He saw you pay full price for the merchandise and thought you were easy prey. So he sent us to ambush you on the road. Lin Yang's expression darkened. So it was an ambush and robbery. He filed this dead away in his mind. Law and order still held sway for now. A public massacre would attract endless trouble. Once the doomsday arrived and social order collapsed, he would settle scores with them properly. Bang! The final shot fell. Silence descended. Lin Yong scanned the surroundings. The area was desolate, without a single surveillance camera in sight. He focused his mind. The 4 bodies, bloodstains, spent bullet casings, and even the gray van vanished completely, transported to the remotest corner of the storage space inside his warehouse. Every trace of evidence erased in one move. With the loose ends dealt with, Lin Yong brushed dust from his hands and returned to his vehicle. He had already wiped all fingerprints from the gun, leaving 0 clues at the scene. This encounter only strengthened his resolve. Possessing firearms granted incomparable confidence. At 4 in the afternoon, Lin Yong arrived at the South City warehouse. The last shipments had all arrived. The prepared meals, frozen food Li Qing had ordered, the seeds and saplings bought by Lin Guojian, alongside the farm machinery, delivered that morning. The warehouse was packed to capacity. The delivery workers had long since left, leaving the empty storage hall quiet. Lin Yong locked the main gate and secured it from the inside. He concentrated his will, and mountains of supplies disappeared in an instant. Frozen goods were stacked in the low-temperature zone of his spatial warehouse, perpetually frozen solid. Seeds were sorted and placed beside the farm machinery. Prepared meals and home-cooked food sat closest at hand, ready to retrieve at any moment. In less than 10 minutes, the 1,000-square-meter warehouse stood completely empty. Every single possession had been stowed inside his personal spatial storage. He terminated the warehouse lease and handed over the keys. Yet Lin Yong did not head home straight away. Twisting the steering wheel, he drove toward the eastern suburbs harbor. The date was June 30th. In the early hours, a meteorite would crash into the Pacific Ocean. The colossal impact would trigger a mega tsunami that swept across the entire coastline. Cargo ships, bonded warehouses, and cold storage facilities at the port would all be swallowed by the tidal wave. Once order collapsed, all goods would become unclaimed property. He had scouted the location in advance. Once the tsunami receded, he could come and collect all the unclaimed supplies. The off-road vehicle pulled over on a high bluff on the outskirts of the harbor. Salty sea wind rushed toward him, tangling his hair wildly. Massive shipping containers were stacked like mountains. All kinds of cargo vessels docked at the pier, and mechanical cranes slowly loaded and unloaded goods. Cold storage warehouses for grain and oil, alongside supply depots, lined the shore, stretching as far as the eye could see. Lin Yong pulled out his phone, opened the map, and marked locations one by one. Cold storage warehouse 1 for grain and oil, warehouse 2 for daily necessities, warehouse 3 for electronic equipment, as well as the harbor gas station and maintenance workshop. He had even memorized escape routes. Which roads sat on high ground safe from the tsunami, and which narrow alleys offered shortcuts for a swift retreat. In his past life, he had visited this harbor several times with transport crews to scavenge supplies. He knew every spot holding valuable goods like the back of his hand. The wind picked up, and the air grew heavier with moisture, weighing on his chest. It felt like an ominous premonition. Beneath the calm ocean surface, a disaster powerful enough to reshape the world was hurtling closer. Lin Yang put his phone away and took one final look at the harbor. In 7 or 8 hours, this entire area would be engulfed by a dozens of meters high tsunami. Everything aboard the ships and stored inside the warehouses would turn into unclaimed goods. He climbed back into the vehicle, turned the ignition, and headed home. Dusk was falling. His parents would surely be waiting for him to have dinner. The off-road vehicle traveled along the coastal highway, seaside scenery flashing past the windows. The moment Lin Yang inserted his key and opened the front door, warm air carrying the aroma of braised meat, steamed dough, and spices washed over him. He froze in the entryway after taking off his shoes. Half-person tall thermal boxes were stacked on the living room sofa. The large dining table was covered from edge to edge with sealed containers, and even the tea table was piled with packaging boxes. Bags of frozen food lay on the floor, with hard frozen dumplings and wontons neatly arranged. His home was practically buried under food supplies. "Yang Yang, you're back. Come on in quickly." Li Qing rushed out of the kitchen wearing an apron, still clutching his soup ladle. Her cheeks flushed from a full day of work as she dragged him toward the dining table. "Hurry up, help me put all of this into your spatial storage. Your father and I have been working nonstop since 4 o'clock this morning, and we've finally finished everything." Lin Yang stared at the containers covering the table, the corner of his mouth twitching. "Mom, did you two clear out a grain shop and a cooked food store and move everything home?" "Exactly." Li Qing grinned proudly, pointing out each batch. "We made 8 types of staple foods alone. 200 each of plain wheat buns, corn steamed buns, pork buns, sauced meat buns, siomai and flour rolls. All packed separately. 50 jin of steamed rice was portioned into containers that can be reheated straight away." She knelt down and opened a thermal box filled with neatly stacked frozen dumplings and wontons. 300 jin of dumplings, chives and egg, cabbage pork, beef, and green onion fillings. We also made 100 boxes each of fresh pork wontons and shrimp wontons. In the mornings, we won't even need to cook, just boil them for 2 minutes. Lin Jiangwo walked out of the kitchen carrying a basin of braised food, his arms trembling slightly as he spoke. "We didn't skimp on hearty dishes either. 20 jin each of braised pork, spiced beef, braised pork trotters, and braised chicken legs, braised pork hock, divided into small portions. Plus 30 containers each of braised ribs, braised chicken, and braised fish, stewed dishes that keep well. And vegetarian dishes too." Li Qing added. 20 containers each of spicy shredded potato, tomato scrambled egg, braised eggplant, and 3 fresh stir-fry. I even pickled 3 big jars of side dishes, dried radish, preserved mustard tuber, and sweet garlic, perfect for congee. We prepared porridge and soups as well. 20 containers each of millet porridge, pumpkin porridge, and preserved egg pork congee. Bone soup, chicken soup, and tomato egg soup are all frozen in separate portions. Lin Yang listened in astonishment. This was far more than stockpiling ready meals. They had prepared home-cooked dishes enough to last an entire year. "Dad, Mom, you two are incredible. How did you manage to make all this in a single day?" "Ah, it's nothing." Lin Jiangwo waved his hand, ready to boast, before Li Qing cut him off. "Don't let him fool you. Your father kept messing things up." Li Qing rolled her eyes. While steaming the 3rd batch of buns, he mistook sugar for salt and added it to the dough. The buns turned unbearably salty. "We wasted 20 jin of flour, and I scolded him for half an hour." Lin Jiangwo's face turned red. He defended himself stubbornly. "The kitchen light was dim. I misread the containers. After that, I kneaded all the dough. 50 jin of flour, all kneaded by hand. Look at my arms, they still ache." "Nice try. The dough you kneaded was hard enough to crack walnuts. I had to redo every single batch." As the two bickered back and forth, Lin Yang laughed softly. It was full of homely warmth. This was what home felt like. "All right, stop arguing. Let's put all this away before it gets cold." Lin Yang gestured, focusing his mind. Rows of sealed containers on the dining table vanished one after another. The thermal boxes on the sofa and frozen food on the floor disappeared too. He had marked out a dedicated home cooking zone inside his storage space. Staples, prepared dishes, soups, and frozen food were sorted and stacked tidily. Standing beside him, Li Qing watched piles of supplies vanish in an instant and sighed in amazement. This storage space really is a treasure. If we had this in the old days, we could run a supermarket without renting a warehouse. It will prove even more useful later on. Lin Yang clapped his hands. Everything is stored now. You can take anything out whenever you want. It stays as warm as the moment it was freshly cooked. Once all supplies were stored, The dinner simmering in the kitchen was brought to the table. 3 dishes and a soup, simple home cooking steaming hot. The television played the evening news. The anchor spoke calmly, reporting routine civil affairs across the country. The meteorite only received a brief mention. Current monitoring data remains stable. Impact risk stays low. Citizens are advised to maintain regular work and daily routines. Lin Jiangwo sipped his wine and sighed. The news still claims everything is fine. Once midnight rolls around, chaos is inevitable. The chaos won't reach us. Li Qing picked up her chopsticks. Our house sits on high ground. We have ample supplies and your storage space. We will pull through safely. Lin Yong nodded without speaking. He knew clearly the meteorite impact was merely the beginning. Continuous torrential rain, extreme cold, and then the rise of the infected. Those would be the true trials awaiting humanity. After dinner, the 3 of them chatted on the sofa. Lin Jiangwo talked about the renovation progress on their new residence. The construction crew was working overtime and would finish work in 5 days. Li Qing pondered what other goods they needed to buy, wondering if they should stock up on more snacks and dried fruits. Warm yellow lamplight filled the room. Outside, music from the square dance group and children's laughter drifted upward. It seemed like any ordinary night. No one knew the world would be turned upside down within hours. 8 o'clock in the evening. Suddenly, beep, beep. Sharp alarm tones blared simultaneously from all 3 mobile phones, shrill and abrupt, breaking the relaxed atmosphere in the living room. Lin Yong, Lin Jiangwo, and Li Qing grabbed their phones at once. It was a mandatory pop-up emergency alert mass sent by the State Emergency Management Administration, printed in bold text. Urgent warning. According to the latest calculations from the National Observatory, meteorite code named Star Trace 07 is confirmed to strike the Central Pacific Ocean at 22:17 tonight. The impact will trigger large-scale tsunamis with expected wave heights between 15 and 30 meters. Residents of all coastal provinces must evacuate toward inland high ground immediately. All ports, docks, and coastal factories are ordered to shut down. Personnel must evacuate without delay. Citizens are asked to refrain from spreading rumors and follow unified local government instructions. The message was short, yet every word carried immense weight. Silence fell over the living room. The remote control slipped from Li Qing's grasp and clattered onto the sofa. Her face paled instantly. Lin Jiangwo set aside his relaxed demeanor, staring intently at the phone screen, fingers tightening slightly. Though Lin Yong had warned them beforehand, the official public notification delivered an overwhelming shock. It meant the end of the world was truly arriving. It was no dream, no joke, an undeniable fact. The evening news broadcast suddenly cut off, switching to emergency live coverage. The host wore a grave expression, speaking rapidly as she repeated the warning. A ticker at the bottom of the screen scrolled evacuation notices and shelter locations for coastal regions. The square dance music downstairs fell silent. In its place came honking vehicles and people shouting, "Check your phones." Tsunami warning. The quiet residential complex descended into disorder in an instant. Lin Jiangwo took a deep breath, lowered his phone, and turned to Lin Yong. "It's really happening." "Yes." Lin Yong replied calmly. "Impact is in just over 2 hours. The tsunami will mainly affect coastal areas. Jingzhou lies inland on elevated terrain. The waves cannot reach us. There is no need for panic." While comforting his parents, his mind was already forming a plan. The opportunity had arrived. The meteorite impact would unleash tsunamis swallowing ports, docks, and bonded zones. Once public order collapsed and staff fled, all warehouse supplies would become unclaimed. Once the water receded, he would rush over at the earliest opportunity to gather as many resources as possible. Grain, frozen meat, daily supplies, fuel, even construction machinery. If his storage space could hold it, it would all belong to him. Li Qing remained anxious, gripping Lin Jiangwo's arm. "Old Lin, should we move to Shanghua Residential Quarter right now?" "No," Lin Yong said. "The tsunami cannot reach this area. The old house will remain safe for another 5 days. We can move once renovations finish. The roads will be jammed with fleeing people. Heading out now only brings unnecessary danger." Lin Jiangwo regained his composure and nodded. "You're right. We'll follow Yang Yang's lead. Our supplies are all prepared. Staying indoors is the safest choice." He stood to inspect doors and windows, double-checking water, electricity, and gas connections. Li Qing busied herself gathering important documents and cash, placing them inside waterproof bags. The easy atmosphere from earlier had vanished, replaced by tension. Lin Yong walked onto the balcony and looked outside. Lights burned in every household across the complex. Chaos unfolded downstairs, people hauling luggage to their cars, groups making frantic calls, voices raised in argument. On distant roadways, vehicle headlights formed endless queues, honking echoing nonstop. Panic spread like an infectious disease. Barely 2 minutes after the alert arrived, Lin Jiangwo's phone rang. It was Foreman Zhang from the construction crew. His voice shook with panic, and shouting workers could be heard in the background. Uncle Lin, disaster is coming. The tsunami warning has been issued. Most of my workers have families living in coastal towns. They need to rush back to evacuate their loved ones. The construction timeline, construction will likely be halted for 10 days or more. Lin Jiangwo's brows drew together tightly. 10 days or longer. Heavy continuous rain would arrive in 10 days. If the renovations remained unfinished, where would they stay? That's urgent. Your workers' family safety comes first. They can head back. As for the timeline, before he could finish speaking, Lin Yang took the phone from him. Foreman Zhang, it's Lin Yang. There was a brief pause on the other end, and Foreman Zhang's tone steadied slightly. Young Master Lin, I truly apologize. Faced with this natural disaster, all the men are desperate to return home, and I cannot hold them back. There is no need for them to leave. Lin Yang leaned back against the sofa, speaking evenly. Keep all workers on site to finish construction. I will add 1 million yuan to the original contract payment. Foreman Zhang fell completely silent. After 2 seconds, his voice shot upward with shock. Young Master Lin, what did you say? An extra million? That's correct. Lin Yang added slowly. I will cover all food and lodging for every crew member. Unlimited bottled water, instant noodles, and sausages will be provided. Shanghua Residential Quarter sits halfway up South Mountain, 20 meters higher than the urban area. The tsunami cannot reach this elevated construction site. It is perfectly safe. He paused, presenting his most tempting offer. If you can complete construction ahead of the 10-day deadline, I will award an extra 100,000 yuan for each day finished early. Will you take the job? Heavy breathing came through the phone line. 1 million yuan. The payout from this single project equaled half a year's normal profits for him. All they needed to do was stay on high ground and keep building. There was no risk from the tsunami. We accept. Absolutely. Foreman Zhang vowed excitedly. Rest assured, young Master Lin. I will gather all workers immediately and arrange round-the-clock 2-shift work. We guarantee finishing at least 2 days ahead of schedule. Deduct payment from my wages if we fall behind. The foreman who moments ago had planned to let everyone flee was now more motivated than anyone. After hanging up, Lin Jiangwo looked at Lin Yang, amused and impressed. You boy? Nothing moves people like real money. What else works? Lin Yang tossed the phone onto the tea table. Empty promises mean nothing amid catastrophe. Hard cash is what truly motivates people. The sooner the house renovations finish, the sooner we gain peace of mind. Li Qing sat beside them, continuously scrolling through her phone and muttering. Good heavens, the internet has erupted. Lin Yang leaned over to glance at the screen. Online platforms were indeed in uproar. 15 of the top 20 trending topics on Weibo related directly to the meteorite, all marked with a blazing hot tag. Hashtag meteorite confirmed to strike Pacific Ocean. Hashtag tsunami warning. Hashtag. Where is the expert who quoted a 0.1 risk? Hashtag. New comments flooded the threads every second. The comment sections blended panic and dark humor. Where is the expert who claimed only a 0.1 chance of impact? Come out and explain. Did the 0.1 mean the chance it wouldn't hit? Understood. Expert probability logic. Either it hits or it doesn't. So 50-50 odds. Supermarkets downstairs are completely cleared out. I couldn't even buy a bottle of mineral water. Does anyone understand this despair? Friends living on the coast, flee to high ground immediately. 30-meter waves are no joke. I thought it would just be an ordinary Wednesday. I'm at work and suddenly facing a countdown to the end of the world. Should I even keep working overtime? Users shared videos of ransacked supermarkets with empty grain and oil shelves and footage of endless traffic jams on coastal highways as people fled inland. Chaos erupted everywhere. Within merely dozens of minutes, peaceful daily life shattered like thin window paper. Lin Yang scrolled briefly before losing interest. He had witnessed this wave of panic in his previous life. The true disasters were yet to unfold. Only after weeks of unceasing rain, the deadly extreme cold, and the emergence of the infected would genuine hell on Earth arrive. The current disorder was merely a mild prelude. Don't keep scrolling, it will only make you more anxious. Lin Yang gently lowered Li Qing's phone. Dad, Mom, you two should try to sleep. How can we possibly rest? Li Qing sighed, unable to stay seated. She paced over to the window repeatedly to peer outside, then checked the emergency bag by the doorway. Life was normal just moments ago. How could everything change so abruptly? Lin Jiangwo lit a cigarette, his brows furrowed. I cannot stop thinking about the coastal regions. Countless families will suffer. Natural disasters are beyond human control. We can only focus on protecting ourselves. Lin Yang pulled Li Qing back to her seat and reasoned with her. Think about it. Jingzhou is over 800 kilometers from the shore. No tsunami, no matter how powerful, can reach here. Shenghua residential quarter sits on high terrain. Even if heavy floods submerge the urban area later, it will remain safe. We have enough food and drink filling my storage space, comprehensive medical supplies and defensive weapons. We will survive the worst of it. His tone remained relaxed and assured, gradually calming his parents' nerves. Head back to your bedroom and rest. Moving to the new residence and organizing supplies will keep us busy in the days ahead. Lin Yang stood and urged them gently. I will keep watch in the living room. I will wake you both immediately if any new updates emerge. Rest assured, I will call you without delay if danger arises. After much persuasion, Lin Jiangwo and Li Qing slowly retreated to their bedroom. Before closing the door, they reminded him repeatedly. Call us the instant anything happens. Do not handle trouble on your own. I know, Mom. Please get some sleep. Once the bedroom door shut, silence enveloped the living room. The wall clock ticked steadily. Every passing second brought the meteorite impact closer. Lin Yang sat on the sofa for 10 minutes, listening to faint tossing and turning from the bedroom until the movements grew calm. Only then did he quietly stand, grab his keys, and put on his shoes. He secured a pistol around his waist, concealed a folding dagger inside his sleeve, and slipped 2 spare ammunition magazines into his pockets. He slowly pulled open the front door and closed it silently behind him. The stairwell stayed quiet. Motion sensor lights remained off. Lin Yang descended the stairs in darkness and climbed into the driver's seat of his off-road vehicle. He turned the ignition carefully, so the engine only emitted a low hum. The vehicle rolled slowly out through the residential complex's side gate and turned onto suburban roads. The journey ahead was far from peaceful. He occasionally spotted private vehicles stuffed full of luggage speeding west toward inland territory, headlights blinding anyone nearby. Lin Yang alone traveled in the opposite direction, heading east toward the harbor. He passed streams of fleeing refugees, an outlier against the crowd. He rolled the window halfway down. Night wind rushed inside, carrying a strengthening salty sea breeze, cool against his skin. Far to the east, the night sky glowed with an unusual dark crimson hue, like clouds scorched by fire, or light generated as the meteorite burned through the atmosphere at extreme speed. Oppressive, permeated with an uncanny sense that doomsday drew near. Lin Yang gripped the steering wheel, his gaze steady. At this exact moment in his past life, he had been crammed indoors with his parents, staying awake all night scrolling news, growing increasingly terrified with every update. Reborn into this timeline, he was instead driving straight into the eye of the storm. Greater risk promised greater reward. Dozens of warehouses lined the port, alongside hundreds of cargo vessels piled high with mountains of supplies. Once the tsunami struck and the guards evacuated, all of it would become unclaimed property. He would never get another chance to amass such wealth if he let this opportunity slip away. 40 minutes later, the off-road vehicle came to a halt on a high bluff overlooking the port. This was the vantage point he had scouted in daylight. Elevated terrain offering an unobstructed view, concealed among woodland and safe from the incoming tsunami. Lin Yang killed the engine and leaned out the window to stare downwards. Chaos reigned within the port. Wailing sirens, blaring evacuation announcements from loudspeakers, and honking vehicles blended into an ear-splitting din. Workers sprinted toward cars clutching folders. Sailors rushed off vessels carrying luggage, abandoning containers mid-shipping. Cranes stood frozen mid-air, looming solitary against the night. The brightly lit bonded warehouses sat illuminated yet unguarded, their gates left ajar. The sea had grown restless. Waves towered far higher than they had been at noon, slamming relentlessly against the seawall and sending plumes of spray surging several meters upward. The wind intensified, stirring the trees into a continuous roar. Lin Yang glanced down at his wristwatch. 9:52 p.m. 1 hour and 25 minutes remained until the meteorite impact. He leaned back into his seat and pulled out a bottle of spirit spring water to drink. A cool, sweet sensation slid down his throat, sharpening his senses. No rush. Wait. Wait for the meteorite to plunge into the ocean. Wait for the tsunami to roll in. Wait until every last person fled the area. Wait until the entire port turned into an abandoned zone. Then this territory would be his domain. Night deepened, and the crimson glow spreading across the eastern sky grew brighter. It looked as though something massive was hurtling toward this blue planet from the depths of space. Half an hour slipped by. At 9:25 p.m., all human noise in the port faded completely. The last security patrol pickup truck rumbled out through the main gate. The iron gate clanged shut and was secured with a heavy chain. Even the sentry booth stood empty. Lights in the office building flickered off floor by floor from bottom to top. Finally, the emergency lamp on the topmost floor flashed twice and died. The whole port sank into shadow. Only navigation beacons along the shipping channel blinked on and off amid the churning waves, casting scarlet light that shattered into scattered flecks on the water. The wind blew far fiercer than it had 30 minutes prior, driving briny sea spray beneath his jacket collar. Cargo ships moored along the shore swayed violently in the swells. Anchor cables as thick as wrists strained taut, creaking in protest. Containers stacked neatly earlier, secured with steel cables, stood in orderly rows like silent steel giants. Along the coastal highway in the distance, endless streams of headlights stretched inland. Faint honking drifted over, torn apart by the wind. Lin Yang crouched behind oak bushes atop the bluff, twisting a dew-dusted leaf between his fingers. He waited another 15 minutes patiently. After confirming no stragglers returned to retrieve belongings, he ducked downhill. A section of perimeter fencing in the northwest had been crumpled by a truck, leaving a gap just wide enough for one person to slip through. As he squeezed past, the hem of his coat snagged on a sharp metal spike and ripped open. Annoying. Lin Yang muttered the complaint, paying it no mind as he crept toward the control center, hugging the shadows of buildings. Gravel crunched softly under his shoes, the sound unnervingly loud amid the port silence. The monitoring room sat around the ground floor corner, fitted with an antiquated spherical lock that offered little resistance. He pulled a thin metal strip from his pocket and jiggled it in the lock. A sharp click echoed, and the door opened. The room reeked of leftover instant noodles and stale cigarette butts. A half-empty bottle of iced black tea rested on the desk, and a security uniform draped over a chair. Whoever had been on duty had fled in a terrible hurry. 16 surveillance monitors lined the wall, casting cold light over every corner of the harbor. Lin Yang stepped forward, first yanking out the main power cord. Every screen went black in an instant. He then tore the hard drive out of the server and slammed it against concrete 3 times, warping the casing and destroying the internal components. To be thorough, he cut all network cables as well. The port surveillance network was now completely blind. No investigation afterward would uncover a shred of evidence linking him to anything here. Stepping out of the monitoring room, Lin Yang stood on the open dock, gazing at the endless stretch of warehouses and containers before him. He drew in a lungful of salt-laden sea wind. The Great Collection operation officially began. He headed first for grain-bonded warehouse number 1. The iron gate was only fastened with a simple latch and swung open easily. Stacks of rice and flour reached from the floor to the ceiling, premium imported grain with glossy, unblemished packaging. Lin Yang focused his thoughts, silently uttering a single command: store. His vision blurred for a split second, and half a stack of rice vanished instantly. With another thought, sacks of flour, cooking oil, and mixed grains disappeared row after row. Grain was the ultimate currency in the apocalypse. In his past life, he had fought another man in mud for half a sack of moldy rice, nearly losing his life. Now entire warehouses of high-quality grain lay within reach. It was impossible not to feel elated. "This haul is incredible," he murmured, unable to suppress a smile. Frozen goods warehouse number 2 was even better. Chilling air washed over him as he pushed open the door. Frozen pork, beef rolls, deep-sea seafood, and imported steaks filled the space, neatly arranged on refrigerated pallets. For 3 years in his previous life, he had rarely tasted even minced frozen meat. Now, with a sweep of his consciousness, he absorbed everything, shelves and all. Braised pork, marinated beef, seafood feasts. He could enjoy whatever he wanted from now on. Warehouse number 3 held daily necessities. Number 4 stocked hardware and construction materials. Number 5 contained electronic supplies. One warehouse emptied after another, cleared away like leaves swept by autumn winds. Lin Yang grew more adept with every use, his steps lightening. Goods he once would have run himself ragged to scavenge were now his with merely a thought. The thrill far surpassed winning 5 million. Once all bonded warehouses were cleared, he moved on to the container yard. Rows of standard shipping containers towered overhead, their multicolored surfaces glinting coldly under the night sky. He made no effort to open and inspect each crate. Whatever lay inside went into his storage space, containers and cargo together. His dimensional space possessed unlimited volume. Keeping supplies could never be a mistake. As he worked, 5 containers felt noticeably heavier than the rest, requiring far more mental effort to shift with his consciousness. Stone product labels marked the doors. Lin Yong assumed they held marble or granite that could be used to build shelters later, so he absorbed them without hesitation. He had no idea these held no ordinary stone. They were newly arrived rough jadeite blocks, yet to clear customs, top-grade ice jadeite, saturated with powerful spiritual energy. After clearing the final row of containers, Lin Yong clapped dust off his hands and turned toward the large vessels moored along the pier. 3 10,000-ton bulk carriers, 2 container ships, alongside 2 massive tankers, one loaded with diesel, the other gasoline, all secured to their berths by thick cables. Every crew member had fled, leaving the ships dark and swaying amid the waves. Lin Yong licked his lips. These were the real prize. Fuel would be more precious than gold after the apocalypse. Power generation, transportation, heating, nothing functioned without it. Large vessels themselves were invaluable assets. If he needed to travel across seas or search for distant stockpiles in the future, these ships would be indispensable. He concentrated his awareness, locking onto the foremost bulk carrier. He focused his will. The sea surface abruptly sank. The 10,000-ton vessel vanished without warning. Ocean water crashed back into the void, sending surging white spray flying onto the dock. It worked. A surge of joy welled up inside Lin Yong, and he pressed onward. The second ship, then the third, one massive vessel after another vanished from the water. The ocean rose and fell repeatedly, boiling like a cauldron. Finally came the 2 fuel tankers. The moment his consciousness touched them, a sharp hum echoed inside his skull. A crushing wave of vertigo crashed over him. His temples throbbed violently, all strength draining from his limbs. His knees buckled, and he nearly stumbled into the sea. He staggered to grab a mooring bollard, gasping heavily. Absorbing such enormous masses in quick succession had exhausted his mental power. Just then, a soothing coolness spread outward from his chest. Like warm spring water emanating from the jade pendant resting against his skin, it flowed through his veins to every corner of his body, rushing straight to his mind. Dizziness faded instantly, exhaustion vanishing completely. His mind felt clearer than ever. The spirit spring within his space was replenishing his mental energy automatically. Once he recovered, Lin Yong focused his awareness inward to examine his dimensional space. The sight left him stunned. The space had transformed entirely. The original spirit spring remained in place, yet its water level had risen substantially. Water overflowed its basin, winding outward across dark fertile soil to form a long freshwater river stretching toward the horizon. The 100 acres of black earth had expanded to triple its original size. Rolling low hills rose in the distance, bordered by wide stretches of lush green meadow, rich and fertile. The cargo ships and tankers he had collected floated calmly on open waters deep within the space. Not a drop of fuel spilled. His pocket dimension had evolved from a modest farmland into a miniature landscape of mountains and rivers. No way it leveled up? Lin Yong whispered in shock. He could not fathom what had triggered the sudden advancement. He thought for a moment and abruptly recalled the 5 unusually heavy containers marked as stone shipments. They were not stone at all. Rough jadeite blocks. His ancestral jade pendant was forged from spirit jade, evolving when nourished by spiritual energy. Those crates of premium jadeite brimmed with jade vitality. Upon entering the space, the pendant absorbed the energy, pushing the dimension to advance. So I stumbled onto an incredible windfall. Realization dawned, and Lin Yong barely held back laughter. He had only planned to gather emergency supplies, yet accidentally acquired 5 crates of jadeite and upgraded his dimensional space in the process. This was fortune beyond imagination. He observed the new river and hills within his space with growing satisfaction. He could raise fish in the waterway, plant trees on the hills, and rear cattle and sheep across the meadows. Survival mode could transition straight into self-sufficient pastoral living. He chose not to dwell on the exact mechanics behind the upgrade. It was an unreserved benefit, and that was all that mattered. Lin Yong withdrew his awareness and looked east across the harbor. A private yacht marina lay in that direction, lined with wealthy owners' luxury vessels. Small craft spanned a dozen meters. The largest stretched nearly 40 meters, outfitted with lavish interiors. In his past life, the tsunami would smash all these boats against reefs, turning them into worthless scrap metal. It had pained him to witness the waste. Now, rather than let them be destroyed by incoming waves, he would bring them into his space for practical use. When he needed to explore open waters or transport supplies later, nothing could match these vessels. The wind intensified further, waves now splashing onto the dock pavement. The eastern sky glowed crimson like red-hot iron, illuminating the clouds themselves. The meteorite drew ever closer. He needed to hurry. Lin Yang stretched his wrists and walked along the breakwater toward the yacht marina. Wet concrete bore faint footprints behind him as he moved. His second round of salvaging was about to commence. As he traveled east along the breakwater, the wind turned ferocious. Waves crashed against dark reefs, scattering salty mist that stung his cheeks. The path was uneven, littered with shells and leftover stones from low tide that dug into the soles of his shoes. When he rounded a thicket of waist-high rock outcrops, muffled footsteps and quiet curses drifted forward. Lin Yang froze, pressing himself flat against cold rock. He gripped the rough stone surface and peeked ahead. Four young men with dyed blonde hair carried woven sacks and crowbars, sneaking toward the bonded warehouses, obviously looters hoping to profit amid the evacuation chaos. He let out a quiet scoff and stayed hidden. The end of the world loomed. He saw no reason to tangle with petty thieves. Besides, he had stripped every warehouse bare. These men would arrive to find nothing and leave disappointed. He could simply watch the scene unfold. Lin Yang waited behind the rocks until their footsteps faded, then brushed dust off his trousers and emerged. He glanced once more at his watch. 9:50 p.m. 27 minutes remained until meteorite impact. He needed to speed up. Pulling his jacket tighter, he quickened his pace toward the private yacht marina. Meanwhile, the four looters reached grain warehouse number 1. The blonde ringleader held a half-smoked cigarette between his teeth, triumphant. See this? I've scouted this place for 2 weeks. It's packed with premium long-grain imported rice. Haul out 2 sacks, and we'll live comfortably for months. A scrawny underling rubbed his hands eagerly. You're brilliant, boss. With the tsunami evacuation underway, this is free loot, pure profit. The blonde man spat away his cigarette butt and jammed the crowbar into the latch. A sharp crack split the air as the gate opened. They rushed inside, eager to grab the nearest goods. All four froze instantly at the doorway. The warehouse stood completely empty. Not even a scrap of packaging littered the concrete floor, which shone cleaner than their empty wallets. The crowbar slipped from the blonde man's grasp and clanged against the ground. What's going on? One subordinate scratched his head. Boss, could we have found the wrong warehouse? Wrong warehouse. The blonde man glared. I've stared at this rusted gate for weeks. This is definitely warehouse 1. A second subordinate ventured deeper, circling the empty space before returning, utterly confused. There's genuinely nothing here. Not even a grain of rice. Did officials move all stock early? They only evacuated 30 minutes ago. You can't shift thousands of tons of goods that fast without trucks. Of course they couldn't, the ringleader muttered, equally baffled. Where are all the transport vehicles on the highway? Ants couldn't move this much cargo. The youngest looter shrank backward and whispered nervously. Boss, do you think we ran into someone with spatial powers? A powerful ability user cleared everything ahead of us, leaving nothing for us to scavenge. The blonde man flicked him hard across the forehead. Quit reading apocalypse novels. Spatial abilities? You might as well claim a game system deleted all supplies. Then how do we explain this? The four men lingered at the empty warehouse entrance. Sea wind tangled the blonde man's garish hairstyle as they sank into bewildered silence. After a lifetime of petty theft, they had never encountered something this inexplicable. Where was all the merchandise? Where had thousands of tons of supplies vanished to? Nothing simply disappeared into thin air. Refusing to accept defeat, the blonde man led his crew to check each warehouse in sequence. Frozen goods warehouse number 2, empty. Daily necessities warehouse number 3, empty. Even the container yard stood vacant. The massive cargo ships moored at the pier were gone, leaving only bare mooring bollards sticking out of the dock. The four men faced each other on the deserted waterfront, overcome with awkwardness. Boss, should we call the police? Someone robbed the place before us. Straight up hostile theft. Are you an idiot? The blonde man kicked him. We're thieves. Calling law enforcement means turning ourselves in. Has the sea spray rotted your brain? The ringleader seethed, unleashing a stream of frustrated complaints. They had snuck past fences and forced locks all night, only to arrive and tour empty storage buildings. A catastrophic loss. Lin Yang paid no mind to the baffled looters behind him. He had arrived at the entrance to the private yacht marina. A line of vessels rested quietly at their berths, small speedboats roughly 12 meters long, medium-sized leisure yachts fitted with bedrooms and compact kitchens, and enormous 30-meter luxury craft. Their hulls gleamed faintly under the night sky, rich men's recreational toys. They'll only get smashed by the tsunami if left here. A total waste, Lin Yang muttered. He rubbed his hands together and focused his consciousness. The first small speedboat, stored. The second mid-sized leisure yacht, complete with bedrooms and a galley, ideal for long journeys, stored. The third vessel was a 3-story luxury superyacht with an open viewing deck and private swimming pool. Rumored to feature full leather interiors and carry an astronomical price tag. Lin Yang licked his lips. Cruising the open seas aboard this would be far more impressive than his off-road vehicle. He drew a deep breath, wrapping his awareness around the superyacht. He had only half absorbed the craft when the eastern night sky exploded with blinding white radiance. Not the dim glow of streetlights, but overwhelming, all-encompassing brightness that instantly turned night into day. Every crevice on the reef and every stone fragment on the ground became clearly visible. Lin Yang's heart lurched. He tilted his head upward. It had arrived. 2 seconds later. Boom. An earth-shaking roar crashed down. It sounded like 10,000 thunderclaps detonating simultaneously. A high-pitched ringing overwhelmed his ears, temporarily robbing him of hearing. The ground lurched violently. Lin Yang stumbled, grabbing the mooring bollard to steady himself. Pressure constricted his chest, and every breath trembled from the shock waves. He squinted toward the eastern horizon. A colossal fireball bloomed above the ocean. Towers of steam and ash surged skyward, forming a gigantic mushroom cloud that blotted out the heavens. A meteorite slammed hard into the Pacific Ocean. Before he could recover from the deafening crash, the seawater beneath his feet began behaving strangely. The waves that had been rolling steadily toward the shore suddenly receded. They pulled back at a terrifying speed, as if a bottomless pit on the seabed was greedily sucking every drop of water away. The yacht berths, normally over 10 meters deep, exposed dark, silted ground in the blink of an eye. Stranded fish and shrimp twitched amid the thick, briny stench of the sea. Lin Yang's face drained of all color. The seawater retreating. It was the precursor to a catastrophic tsunami. It was arriving far sooner than he remembered from his past life. Damn it, he swore, abandoning the remaining yachts without a second thought, and sprinted desperately toward the south hillside. The wind howled in his ears. Loose gravel skittered under his feet, making him stumble, nearly twisting his ankle. Behind him, a thunderous roar grew louder, like thousands of galloping horses or a great beast roaring, shaking the ground beneath him. The tsunami was closing in. He dared not look back, pouring every ounce of strength into climbing the slope. He scrambled up the dozens of meters of steep hillside on hands and knees, ignoring the sharp cuts grass blades left across his palms. The instant he reached the crest and tumbled into the woods. Boom. A wall of water dozens of meters high crashed violently against the harbor. The docks, warehouses, and rocky reefs that had stood intact moments before were swallowed in an instant by a sheet of churning white surf. The waves slammed against the rocks at the foot of the slope, sending sprays of water soaring more than 10 meters upward. Cold seawater splashed across his face. Lin Yang dropped onto the grass, gasping for air, his heart hammering wildly, threatening to burst from his chest. So close. Only a dozen more seconds, and he would have been dragged out to sea to die. He pushed himself upright, wiped seawater from his cheeks, and looked back. A vast expanse of murky water stretched everywhere. The waves continued surging upward, and the entire harbor had vanished beneath the flood. The thieves who had lingered on the pier just now likely hadn't even had time to react before being swept away. Lin Yang swallowed hard, soaked in cold sweat from head to toe. He had underestimated the danger. He'd nearly gotten himself killed. Thankfully, he had run fast enough. He sat behind a tree atop the ridge, listening to the churning waves below and breathing in the heavy salt tang in the air. The meteorite had struck. Lin Yang huddled behind an oak tree on the hilltop, staring out at the roiling seawater, his frown deepening. The floodwaters kept climbing. Murky yellow currents carried shipping container debris and broken tree trunks, surging higher up the hillside wave after wave, already submerging the viewing platform halfway up the slope. At this rate, even this high ground would be unsafe in another half hour. He could not wait. Pushing himself up using the tree trunk, he brushed grass and dirt from his clothes and headed west along a forest trail. His off-road vehicle was hidden 2 kilometers away at the gate of an abandoned lumberyard, concealed within thick bushes, far from main roads where no one would spot it. After winding through the woods to reach the spot and confirming there was no one nearby, Lin Yang focused his mind. In the next moment, a rugged black off-road vehicle materialized before him, still dust covered from his drive earlier that evening. He pulled open the door, climbed inside, and turned the ignition. The low rumble of the engine echoed sharply through the quiet woodland. Lin Yang turned onto the main road and pressed hard on the accelerator, speeding toward the urban district. The roads were empty. The coastal expressway, normally packed with traffic, did not hold a single vehicle. Streetlights glowed alone, casting orange light across the deserted asphalt. Not even a stray cat crossed the road. Shops on both sides were shuttered tight, with metal roll-down doors. A handful that had left their lights on glowed, isolated and faint. A few abandoned private cars sat along the roadside, doors hanging open, empty inside. Their owners had evidently fled in panic, abandoning their vehicles. Lin Yang gripped the steering wheel, watching the scenery rush past the window, a twinge of melancholy stirring inside him. In his past life, the city would have descended into chaos by this hour. Supermarkets would be stripped bare, roads jammed with traffic, people shouting and weeping, everything thrown into turmoil. This time, official early warnings had been issued promptly, and coastal residents had evacuated quickly, leaving behind a ghost town eerily silent. It was for the best. Chaos made it easy to take advantage of the confusion. Yet relative calm meant ordinary people stood a better chance of surviving. He was no saint, but he hoped fewer lives would be lost. 40 minutes later, the off-road vehicle pulled steadily into the underground parking garage of his residential complex. The garage stood half-empty. Parking bays that were usually full now held only a scattering of cars. Many families must have left overnight to stay with relatives further inland. Lin Yang cut the engine and stepped out. He glanced left and right, and with a thought, the vehicle vanished. Stored away inside his spatial pocket. He clapped dust from his hands and walked toward the apartment building. The elevator climbed, its display numbers ticking upward. Lin Yang scratched his chin, wondering how to explain himself to his parents. Saying he'd gone out for a midnight stroll? They would never believe it. Well, he might as well tell them the truth. They already knew about his spatial ability anyway. Click. The front door swung open. Bright lamplight flooded the living room. Lin Yang had barely kicked off his shoes when he froze in the entryway. Lin Jiangwo sat squarely in the middle of the sofa, holding a lit cigarette, smoke curling around him. The room was so thick with haze it looked ethereal. He sat amid the fog, resembling an aged immortal. The glass ashtray on the coffee table overflowed with cigarette butts, nearly half a pack's worth. Li Qing paced back and forth across the living room, glancing toward the door every few steps, her brows knotted tight. At the sound of the door opening, both of them twisted their heads toward him at once. Their gazes were like searchlights, locking straight onto Lin Yang. You finally decide to come home. Li Qing rushed over first, tapping his arm lightly. Her voice trembled despite the gentle force of her blow. You reckless boy, where on earth did you sneak off to in the middle of the night? Your father and I have been sick with worry. Lin Jiangwo stubbed out his cigarette and lifted his head through the haze, his expression stern. Have you grown too independent for your own good? With disaster looming, you dare wander outside. Are you tired of living? Lin Yang quickly smiled reassuringly and guided Li Qing toward the sofa. Mom, look, I'm perfectly fine. Not a scratch on me. Fine. It will be too late when something goes wrong. Li Qing poked his forehead. You told us you were going to rest, then snuck out behind our backs. Do you want to scare us half to death? Lin Yang sat obediently and poured each of them a glass of warm water. I went out to take care of important business. Important business? What important business happens in the dead of night? Lin Jiangwo frowned and sipped his water. Don't try telling me you went out for a walk or cigarettes. The neighborhood supermarket closed hours ago. It really was important work. Lin Yang grinned, leaning forward. I headed to the harbor and collected a large stock of supplies. The harbor? Lin Jiangwo set his mug down heavily on the coffee table, eyes wide with shock. Have you lost your mind? A tsunami is hitting tonight. The harbor will bear the brunt of it. Do you want to get yourself killed? Li Qing grew anxious too, grabbing his arm to check him over. Were you nearly caught by the waves? Are you hurt? Why can't you ever be more careful? I'm truly unharmed. I picked a safe vantage point up on a high slope, out of reach of the floodwaters. Lin Yang patted Li Qing's hand to calm her, then began recounting what he had acquired. I cleared out 8 warehouses in the bonded zone, dozens of shipping containers, grain, frozen meat, daily necessities, hardware, and construction materials. I also took 3 cargo ships and 2 tanker vessels, both filled to capacity with fuel. He grew more pleased as he spoke. There were 3 yachts at the private marina as well, different sizes. We could head out to sea any time we want later on. Silence fell over the living room for 2 heartbeats. Lin Jiangwo and Li Qing exchanged a look, both stunned. Their son had ventured out and essentially emptied half the harbor? You. Lin Jiangwo pointed at him, struggling to find words. You're like a rat hoarding treasure. You seize every unattended place to gather supplies. With so many goods taken, aren't you afraid of leaving evidence? What if the police investigate? Law and order still held for now. Stealing such massive quantities of supplies would carry severe consequences if traced. Lin Yang wore a mischievous smile and leaned back against the sofa cushions. Don't worry, Dad. I smashed all the surveillance hard drives and cut power to the recording equipment. Not a single frame of footage remains. He spread his hands, feigning innocence. Besides, the tsunami will flatten the entire pier. No one will suspect a thing. Everyone will simply assume the flood swept everything away. The tsunami takes the blame. A flawless plan. Lin Jiangwo fell momentarily speechless. He stared at his son's smug look, not knowing whether to feel angry or amused. Great. So the natural disaster just conveniently serves as his alibi. You're far too crafty for your own good, he huffed. Why don't you ask heaven to hand you an award for best scavenger? No need for awards. Having the supplies is reward enough, Lin Yang replied unabashedly. Li Qing listened, torn between frustration and lingering fear, before asking hesitantly. Did you really gather that much stock? Fuel two. 2 tanker ships, one loaded with diesel and one with gasoline. Both full, Lin Yang nodded. We'll have enough fuel for generators, driving vehicles and heating for a very long time. Li Qing pressed a hand to her chest and breathed out slowly. The more supplies they possessed, the safer she felt. Still, she gave his arm a light pinch. If you sneak out alone to take risks again, I won't go easy on you. You're a grown man. Stop making us worry constantly. I know, Mom. I'll definitely tell you both next time. Lin Yang quickly surrendered. Despite their banter, the atmosphere gradually turned somber. Lin Jiangwo walked to the balcony and pulled back the curtains to look outside. Few lights glowed in the residential complex, and the streets in the distance lay shrouded in darkness. The familiar bustle of daily life had been swallowed by the night. The meteorite had fallen, and the tsunami had crashed ashore. The peaceful days were well and truly over. Lin Yang and Li Qing stepped beside him at the window. The night was thick and heavy. Wind slipped through gaps in the window frames, carrying dampness. No one spoke, yet all three understood the same truth. This was only the beginning. The tsunami raged on until the early hours before it gradually subsided. At dawn, the sky barely lightened, and the sea surface settled into calm. The air still carried the salty tang, yet the ocean had lost its ferocity. Gentle waves lapped against the breakwaters, as if nothing catastrophic had happened. Only uprooted trees, seaweed tangled on railings, and mud covering the ground served as proof of the towering flood from the night before. At 7 o'clock in the morning, an official text alert popped up on every phone. Disaster notice. Meteorite star trace 07 impacted waters of the Pacific Ocean at 22:17 yesterday. Peak tsunami activity has passed. Coastal hazard levels have receded. Residents may return in an orderly manner. Please continue monitoring weather alerts and observe household safety precautions. As soon as the notice spread, families who had evacuated inland began traveling back. Traffic thickened on the highways, cars filled with families carrying luggage, faces marked with quiet relief at surviving the ordeal. Life slowly returned to the city. Shops unlocked their doors, breakfast stalls were set up, and the aroma of soybean milk and fried dough sticks drifted through the air. Yet the sky remained heavy and gray, like a giant metal bowl pressed overhead. The sun stayed hidden behind clouds, unable to cast any light, leaving a stifling weight in everyone's chest. Online platforms had erupted into chaos. Hashtag Jingzhou Harbor vanished without a trace sat atop the trending charts, marked with a blazing, breaking tag. Videos taken at the harbor circulated online. The container yards, once piled high with freight, stood empty. Not a trace of the large cargo vessels remained at the berths, and the private yacht marina was swept clean. Not even a length of mooring rope left behind. Comment sections overflowed with wild speculation. Did officials relocate all supplies overnight? Impossible. Evacuation only lasted 3 hours. You couldn't move hundreds of thousands of tons of cargo plus large ships even with magic tricks. I know what's going on. A space ability user struck first at the start of the apocalypse to hoard supplies. I've read plenty of novels with this exact plot. Could the tsunami have carried everything away? But the ground at the pier is completely scoured clean. Did the waves come equipped with vacuum cleaners? Hear me out. I suspect aliens stopped by. Their spacecraft needed fuel, so they took the oil tankers on a whim. Investigate all the people who suddenly started stockpiling goods a few days ago. Reborn survivors are almost certainly behind this. Lin Yang slouched on the sofa scrolling through the comments, barely holding back laughter. Netizens were incredibly imaginative. Their guesses were shockingly close to the truth. But there was no evidence, only empty speculation. As he swiped the screen, a mischievous thought crossed his mind. Keep guessing. All the cargo is safely stored in my spatial pocket, and the tankers are still warm from the sea. Li Qing walked out of the kitchen carrying a fruit platter and nudged his arm. Laughing at something? Are you watching the news about the harbor? Yep. Netizens are practically solving the mystery. Lin Yang passed her the phone. Look, some people are blaming aliens. Li Qing scanned the comments and smiled. These people come up with the wildest theories. No one will suspect us. Otherwise, crowds would be beating down our door. They could think forever and never figure it out. Lin Yang bit into an apple. The tsunami takes the blame. Perfect cover. The next 3 days passed quietly for the Lin family. Outside, unrest persisted. Rumors spread of radiation from the meteorite and incoming plagues. And supermarkets endured 2 more rounds of panic buying. Behind closed doors in their apartment, they lived in peace. Lin Jingwo handled cooking, preparing elaborate meals day after day: braised pork, sweet and sour fish, pork hocks simmered in sauce. Savoring the comforts of pre-apocalyptic life. Li Qing assisted him in the kitchen, mixing cold dishes and pickling vegetables. She sorted all family documents and valuables, sealing them into waterproof bags. Lin Yang kept busy as well. Whenever his parents were distracted, he slipped into his spatial pocket and sowed the first batch of vegetable seeds on the fertile soil near the spiritual spring, watering them with its spring water. The rich black soil was remarkably fertile. Overnight, tender green shoots sprouted, a pleasant sight to behold. On the 4th morning, Foreman Zhang's call came through. Young Master Lin, the house renovations are finished. When would you like to come inspect the work? We delivered ahead of schedule, guaranteed top quality. Lin Yang had just finished eating a steamed bun. He wiped his hands. 10 o'clock this morning. Meet at Shenghua residential compound. After hanging up, the 3 of them began packing luggage. It was mostly for appearances. Large furniture, bedding, and clothing had already been quietly moved into Lin Yang's spatial pocket. They only needed to carry 2 suitcases filled with daily essentials and spare clothes to look like an ordinary family moving house. Lin Jingwo even brought a potted green vine, and Li Qing carried a bag of cooking seasonings, putting on a convincing show. Arriving empty-handed at the new residence would draw unwanted attention. Lin Yang slowed the off-road vehicle as they entered Shenghua residential compound. The complex sat halfway up South Hill, on high ground. The entrance led uphill, and landscaping flourished with dense trees. Buildings were spaced widely apart, 15-story low-rise apartments. Standing below, the view from the upper floors looked expansive. After parking, they took the elevator straight to the 15th floor. Foreman Zhang and his crew waited outside Unit 1501. He broke into a smile the moment he saw them arrive. Uncle Lin, young Master Lin, Sister Li, you've made it. Come inside and take a look. If anything fails to meet your standards, I'll fix it immediately. The heavy blast-resistant door creaked open as it swung inward. Lin Yang stepped inside and glanced around, satisfied with what he saw. All windows were replaced with triple-layer bulletproof tempered glass, thick and sturdy. Removable steel shielding panels leaned against the walls nearby, which could be installed to seal openings tightly during extreme cold or heat. The front entrance was a reinforced blast-resistant door with 3 lock cylinders. Once closed, barely any air could seep through. Insulation layers lined both interior and exterior walls, cool to the touch, with excellent soundproofing. Noise from the hallway was barely audible. Let's head up to the rooftop, Lin Zhengwo said, most concerned about this area, walking toward the stairwell first. The rooftop access door was also reinforced anti-theft steel. Once unlocked, they stepped out to an open expanse. A solid brick wall 1.5 meters high encircled the entire perimeter, topped with galvanized barbed wire fencing. No creature could climb over it. A half-enclosed tempered glass sunroom stood on the eastern side, supported by thickened steel framing, built to withstand heavy impact. Mounting bases for solar panels and an air source energy system were installed on the west side. 2 5-ton water storage tanks stood in the corner with all piping connected. The floor had been fully waterproofed, smooth and seamless beneath their feet. Lin Jingwo circled the perimeter, tapping the brickwork and testing the wire fencing, nodding approvingly. Excellent workmanship. Naturally, Foreman Zhang grinned broadly. I supervised every stage personally. Only premium materials were used, no cutting corners. The entire electrical system has been rewired to handle heavy power equipment, and the basement storage room is fully moisture-proof. You have nothing to worry about. After inspecting every corner and finding no flaws, Lin Jingwo transferred the final payment, a 1,000,000 yuan expediting fee, plus an extra 200,000 bonus for finishing ahead of schedule, without delay. Foreman Zhang's face lit up when he saw the payment notification, repeatedly promising service. Call me anytime if you have future construction work. I'll come running. Workers carried their tools outside, with Foreman Zhang bringing up the rear. Lin Yang walked him to the elevator entrance and casually offered a word of warning. Brother Zhang, take my advice. Stock up on rice, flour, oil, and warm supplies. The weather looks ominous. Extended heavy rains are likely coming, and you could get trapped indoors without provisions. Foreman Zhang paused, confused. The tsunami had only just passed, and now heavy rain disasters were predicted? But Lin Yang spoke earnestly, not sounding like he was joking. He filed the thought away, responding politely. I'll take your warning to heart. I'll tell my wife to stock up more supplies. Though he agreed, he did not take the warning seriously. He assumed wealthy people tended to be overly cautious. Long periods of rain occurred every summer. They could hardly trap people indoors indefinitely. The elevator doors closed, and silence returned to the hallway. Lin Yang walked back to the apartment. Entering, he saw Li Qing opening windows in every room to let fresh air circulate, while Lin Jingwo stood by the rooftop doorway smoking, gazing out into the distance. The sky darkened further. Lead gray clouds hung low overhead, and the wind strengthened, making the windows rattle. The air grew thick with moisture, so damp it felt as though water could be wrung out of it. Mysteries surrounding the port that vanished out of thin air continued trending online. Before netizens could come up with their 800th theory, a new search topic shot straight to the top of the hot list. Large numbers of dead fish wash up on the coast of the Eagle Nation. It was 7:30 on the morning of July 3rd. Along the beaches on the west coast of the Eagle Nation, dead fish lay densely piled, stretching as far as the eye could see. The seawater took on an eerie grayish-blue hue. The comment section quickly veered off track, and netizens lined up to direct accusations at the Cherry Blossom Nation. No need to investigate. Same old story, nuclear wastewater from the Cherry Blossom Nation, classic move. Cherry Blossom Nation, what's going on? Why am I always blamed whenever something happens in the ocean? Can I catch a break? Suggest the Cherry Blossom Nation book a permanent spot on hot search lists. It'll save them scrambling to climb the rankings every time there's an ocean incident. Nuclear wastewater. This really wasn't me. I haven't drifted this far yet. Netizens. I won't listen. It's you, definitely you. Hilarious. They used to at least offer a few rebuttals. Now the Cherry Blossom Nation's probably given up. One more blame doesn't make much difference anyway. Lin Yang slouched on the living room sofa scrolling through his phone, chuckling to himself. He knew full well it had nothing to do with nuclear wastewater. Mutagenic factors carried by meteorites had plunged into the Pacific Ocean and spread along ocean currents, impacting marine life first. These dead fish were just the prelude. Before long, mutated sea creatures would emerge, and that was when things would truly turn chaotic. But he said nothing. He could not say anything. Let nuclear wastewater take the blame for now. After all, the Cherry Blossom Nation was already used to it. What are you laughing at? Grinning away at your phone alone. Li Qing walked over carrying a plate of sliced watermelon and set it on the coffee table. I'm reading news about the dead fish by the sea. Everyone's blaming the Cherry Blossom Nation for discharging wastewater. Lin Yang picked up a slice and bit into it, enjoying its sweet, grainy texture. What a tragedy. Li Qing sighed. They've ruined the ocean. By the way, your dad's up on the rooftop tending to his seeds. He says he's starting seedlings in the sunroom first, waiting for spare space in his storage area to transplant them later. Just then, the doorbell chimed. Ding dong. The crisp ring sounded startlingly loud in the quiet house. Lin Yang paused mid-bite, furrowing his brows. Strange. Shenghua community had strict security. Visitors needed a homeowner to come downstairs to let them in. They had only moved in half a day ago. Aside from the construction crew, no one knew this address. He hadn't told relatives or friends about the move, and Lu Manyan would never come looking for him here. Who could it be? Who's that? Li Qing frowned, glancing toward the doorway. I don't know. I'll check. Lin Yang stood and walked to the entrance, peering through the peephole first. Outside stood a young woman in a plain white dress, long hair falling over her shoulders. She clutched a paper bag in her hand, staring at her toes and shuffling her feet nervously, looking rather flustered. Her side profile seemed familiar. He pulled open the door. The moment their eyes met, Lin Yang froze. Binding Bing? The girl outside also gave a start and stepped backward, tightening her grip on the bag's handles. Her voice was soft, barely audible. Lin Yang, it's been a long time. A buzz rang in Lin Yang's head. Buried memories surged forth, tinged with the thick scent of blood. At the start of the zombie outbreak in his past life, he'd rushed alone into a supermarket to rescue Lu Manyan, only to get cornered by zombies inside a storage room. He thought his end had come, until Bai Ningbing charged in. This quiet girl from his class, too shy to speak casually to boys, had somehow gotten hold of a steel pipe. She drew the horde away by striking the zombies, leaving him a chance to survive. The last sight he caught was her gaze, timid yet resolute, right before she was tackled by the undead. Later, he searched for her body, yet found nothing. That incident became an unremovable thorn in his heart from his previous life. In the half-month since his rebirth, he had been swamped stockpiling supplies, purchasing property, and preparing for meteorites and tsunamis. He had completely forgotten about her. Lin Yang, seeing him stare without speaking, Bai Ningbing's face flushed, and she lowered her head further. Did I disturb you? I just heard you moved here and happened to pass by, so I came to say hello. No, not at all. Lin Yang snapped out of his daze and quickly stepped aside. Come in, it's windy outside. His emotions were in turmoil. She had saved his life in his past life. In this lifetime, he would make sure she never met such a tragic fate again. Bai Ningbing uttered a quiet "mm" and stepped indoors carefully, brushing her shoe tips lightly against the entry mat as if afraid to dirty the flooring. Li Qing walked out from the kitchen. Spotting such a pretty young girl in their home, her eyes lit up instantly. Oh, you must be Yang Yang's classmate. Come, sit down quickly. She warmly pulled Bai Ningbing toward the sofa. Rest for a moment, I'll get you a glass of water. Thank you, Auntie. Bai Ningbing sat rigidly upright, hands resting on her knees, visibly nervous. Lin Jiangwo walked back in from the balcony. When he saw Bai Ningbing, he exchanged a glance with Li Qing. The two passed wordlessly between their eyes. What a beautiful girl. Far prettier than Lu Manyan. No wonder he stopped chasing Lu Manyan. Turns out he's had someone in mind all along. Lin Yang saw their expressions and knew trouble was coming. Sure enough, Li Qing set a glass of water before Bai Ningbing and began probing gently. What's your name, dear? Are you university classmates with our Yang Yang? Hello, Auntie. My name is Bai Ningbing. We were in the same class. Bai Ningbing's voice stayed soft. She bowed her head to sip water, her ears turning pink. Bai Ningbing, such a lovely name. Li Qing smiled warmly. You're beautiful and gentle too. Was our Yang Yang a handful at school, giving you lots of trouble? And no, Lin Yang, he's very nice. Bai Ningbing ducked her head even lower, cheeks flushing pink. Lin Yang cringed listening beside them. Mom, stop interrogating her. I'm just asking. Li Qing shot him a look, then smiled at Bai Ningbing again. Don't mind me, I'm just curious. I used to hear Yang Yang was pursuing that Lu girl. I thought he only liked that sword, but now it seems. She dragged out her words meaningfully, glancing sideways at Lin Yang. With such a lovely quiet girl around, who'd still chase Lu Manyan, right? Mom, Lin Yang's face darkened. Don't talk nonsense. We're just ordinary classmates. Bai Ningbing's face flushed bright red all the way down to her neck. She twisted the hem of her dress between her fingers, head bowed so low she could barely speak. Her social anxiety was at its peak. Lin Jiangwo calmly added fuel to the fire. If you're only ordinary classmates, how did she find our new address? We haven't told many people ourselves. Lin Yang fell speechless. A heavy silence hung over the living room, broken only by the wind whistling against the window frames. Lead-gray daylight filtered through the bulletproof glass, casting a cold gray tint over the room. The air felt damp and stifling. Lin Yang sat on the sofa watching Bai Ningbing fidget nervously, inwardly sighing. She hadn't changed one bit, soft and skittish like a frightened rabbit, blushing after just a few exchanges. No one would guess this socially awkward girl would once charge into a horde of zombies wielding a steel pipe to save him. He vaguely recalled gossip from the base in his past life that Bai Ningbing came from a prominent family. Her parents were senior military officers. Before the apocalypse, they held high positions. Once communications collapsed after the outbreak, she was left all alone and endured countless hardships. Back then, his mind had only been fixed on Lu Manyan, so he paid it no heed. Looking back now, he had been terribly blind. I'll get you another glass of water. Lin Yang cleared his throat to break the silence and headed toward the kitchen. He failed to notice the puddle Li Qing had left on the floor while wiping the coffee table. The clear water spread across the off-white tiles, nearly invisible to the eye. His left foot stepped onto the wet patch, and his shoe slid sharply. Whoa! Lin Yang cursed quietly as he lost balance and lurched forward. Bai Ningbing lifted her head abruptly, eyes widening. Instinctively, she stretched out a hand to grab Lin Yang's arm. Slender as she was, she lacked the strength to steady a grown man. Her fingertips caught hold of his sleeve, only to be pulled forward with his momentum. Ah! A small gasp caught in her throat. Lin Yang had tried to grab the edge of the sofa to steady himself, but her tug altered his trajectory. They tumbled onto the carpet together. Worried he would crush her, he twisted sideways and propped himself up on his elbow. Their foreheads knocked firmly against each other. Time seemed to stand still. The light bump sent a faint warm sensation rippling through both of them. Lin Yang caught a faint citrus sweetness on her breath, the taste of watermelon she had eaten earlier. A buzz roared in Lin Yang's mind, leaving him stunned. Bai Ningbing froze stiff, eyes wide open, long eyelashes trembling. She forgot how to breathe. Meanwhile, behind the crack of the bedroom door, Lin Jiangwo and Li Qing huddled together, peering outside. Li Qing had just been whispering to Lin Jiangwo, saying how gentle the young girl seemed and how well she matched their son. Before she could finish, she watched the two slip and fall, bumping heads. Her eyes lit up instantly. She clamped a hand over her mouth to stifle laughter. She elbowed Lin Jiangwo hard, throwing him a triumphant look that said, "I told you so." Lin Jiangwo stared in surprise, then raised an eyebrow. He folded his arms and nodded slowly, his expression like an inspector signing off on a project, thoroughly relieved. Finally, this boy has come to his senses. We haven't raised him for nothing. He leaned in to watch more, but Li Qing nudged his head. The two crouched back behind the door, holding back giggles, shoulders shaking like children sneaking candy. Awkwardness thickened in the living room, almost tangible. The silence stretched on, seeming to last an eternity. Lin Yang snapped back to his senses and scrambled upward, nearly hitting the corner of the coffee table. "I'm so sorry." He scratched his head frantically, the tips of his ears burning red, stumbling over his words. "It was an accident. I didn't see the water on the floor, truly, I." Never in his 2 lifetimes had he felt so flustered. Even fighting zombies in his past life had not made him this nervous. Bai Ningbing remained seated on the carpet, staring blankly at the ceiling. She lifted a hand gently to touch her forehead. The spot still felt warm from the collision, carrying an unfamiliar faint scent. Her mind went completely blank, buzzing as if struck by lightning. She could not process a single word of Lin Yang's frantic apologies. Her thoughts kept replaying the moment they collided, along with the faint soap scent clinging to him. Her heart raced wildly, cheeks hot enough to fry eggs, and her ears burned crimson. Bai Ningbing? Seeing her unresponsive, Lin Yang feared she had hurt herself in the fall. He leaned forward and held out a hand. "Are you all right? Did you hit yourself? Can you stand up?" His hand hovered midair. Bai Ningbing jolted back to reality. She sat up quickly and shuffled backward, like a startled hamster, keeping her head lowered. Her voice was barely audible. "I'm fine, I don't hurt." She bowed her head deeper and deeper, long hair falling forward to hide her face. Only her bright red ear tips peeked out. Lin Yang's hand froze halfway, unsure whether to pull it back or leave it outstretched. The awkwardness intensified. He wished he could vanish into thin air. How had a simple visit from an old classmate turned into this mess? If only he hadn't headed to the kitchen for drinks. Behind the bedroom door, Li Qing pried the crack open again to observe. She watched the two, standing motionless, one scratching his head, the other staring at the ground like wooden posts. She stamped her leg in frustration. What a foolish boy. Reach out and help her up. Why just stand there? Lin Jiangwo tugged her arm and shook his head, signaling her to be patient. The elderly couple crouched behind the door, more anxious than the two people in the living room. The wind outside grew stronger, whipping raindrops against the glass with a steady patter. Sporadic rain had begun falling without anyone noticing. Humidity saturated the air. It mixed with the thick awkwardness in the living room and clung to everything like a damp shroud. Lin Yang took a deep breath and forced himself to break the silence. "Watch your step, the floor is slippery." I'll go get you a glass of juice." Without waiting for her reply, he hurried toward the kitchen, his steps hurried. If he stayed any longer, the embarrassment would overwhelm him. In the kitchen, Lin Yang leaned against the refrigerator and patted his heated cheeks. "Get a grip," he muttered to himself. It was just an accidental collision. No need to panic. Yet his heartbeat refused to slow. He shook his head and opened the refrigerator to grab juice, trying to distract himself. Still, his mind kept replaying the moment their heads bumped, and the sight of Bai Ningbing's wide, startled eyes. Trouble. A thought crossed Lin Yang's mind. This situation was slipping out of his control. After lingering for 2 minutes, he carried 2 glasses of freshly squeezed orange juice back out, trying his best to act calm. Freshly squeezed, chilled. Have a taste. Bai Ningbing had returned to the sofa, sitting rigidly upright with hands neatly placed on her knees. She looked up at the sound, and her fingers trembled as she took the glass. Thank you." She sipped the juice slowly. The cool, sweet liquid slid down her throat, yet it could not cool her burning cheeks. She stared at the patterns on the cup's surface, not daring to glance at Lin Yang. Lin Yang sat back down and took a large gulp from his own glass. Silence fell over the living room once more, interrupted only by the growing patter of rain hammering against the tempered glass like a rapid drumbeat. The sky darkened further. Though it was only past 3 in the afternoon, the room felt as dim as evening. A light lamp needed to be switched on for brightness. "This rain seems to be getting heavier." Lin Yang spoke first to break the quiet. Bai Ningbing gave a soft "mm." She glanced briefly out the window before lowering her head again. It was only cloudy this morning. I didn't expect rain to pick up in the afternoon. The weather forecast says it will keep raining for days. That's what they claim, but it will likely be worse than predicted. Lin Yang replied casually. Have you stocked up food at home? If this rain lasts a week, the supermarkets downstairs will run out of supplies. Bai Ningbing paused and shook her head, her voice gentle. Not yet. My parents are away on official assignments. I live alone. I usually order takeout. Just as he suspected, Lin Yang thought to himself. Her parents held high military posts and spent most of their time away. She lived in a large house all by herself with no awareness of emergency stockpiling. Once heavy floods submerged the city and power and water cut off, takeout deliveries would stop. She would be left with nothing to eat. You should buy supplies soon. Lin Yang's tone turned earnest. Rice, flour, cooking oil, instant noodles, bottled water, stock as much as you can. Also warm clothes. Temperatures will likely drop later, don't catch a chill. Bai Ningbing lifted her head, eyes bright with confusion as she looked at him. Will things get that serious? In her understanding, extended rainy seasons came every year. At most, travel became inconvenient. There was no need to hoard supplies. Yet Lin Yang's tone carried no hint of joking. Better safe than sorry. Lin Yang did not elaborate too deeply, afraid of frightening her. Tsunamis just struck, and the weather is acting wildly abnormal. Preparing more supplies never hurts. Living alone as a young woman, you'll have no one to turn to if trouble arises. Bai Ningbing stared at his earnest profile, and her cheeks flushed gently once more. Was he worrying about her? She whispered, All right, I'll go shopping when I get home. They chatted until nearly 5 o'clock. The rain intensified into a torrential downpour. A white curtain of rain blurred the view outside, blocking sight of the opposite apartment building. Bai Ningbing stood up, fingers twisting the hem of her dress. It's getting late. I should head home. Thank you and Auntie for your hospitality. No rush, stay for dinner first. Lin Yang rose to his feet too. Mom's already cooking. No, please don't trouble yourselves. Bai Ningbing shook her head quickly, her face pink again. I can grab something simple at home. The rain is too heavy. It will be hard to travel if I stay any longer. Just then, Li Qing walked out of the kitchen wearing an apron. Hearing this, she hurried over to stop her. Oh dear child, how can you head out in such heavy rain? Stay and eat. I've already stewed meat. It will be ready shortly. Truly. Thank you, Auntie, but my building is number 12. It's very close. Bai Ningbing declined softly. Yet she could not resist Li Qing's warm persistence. As the two gently argued, Lin Yang spoke up. All right, Mom, let her go. The rain really is fierce. I'll walk her down to the building entrance. With his word, Li Qing could not press further. She nodded reluctantly. Very well. Yang, see her safely out. Ningbing, come visit us anytime. Thank you, Auntie. Bai Ningbing replied with flushed cheeks. Lin Yang fetched 2 oversized golf umbrellas and handed one to her. Take this. The seller claims it can withstand gale force winds up to level 8. It should hold up. Hold on tight. Okay. They stepped outside. The elevator descended in silence, only the faint hum of the carriage breaking the quiet. Bai Ningbing stood in the corner, stealing glances at Lin Yang's reflection in the mirrored wall. He stared straight ahead, brows slightly furrowed, seemingly lost in thought. He had a straight nose and sharp jawline, looking more mature than he had in university. She quickly looked away, her heartbeat speeding up again. Ding! The elevator reached the ground floor. The moment the entrance door opened, fierce wind swept sheets of rain sideways, bringing a chill. Bai Ningbing opened her umbrella and took 2 steps forward. A sudden gust slammed into her. The seemingly sturdy large umbrella flipped inside out instantly, turning into an upward-facing funnel. Rainwater poured inside. Before she could dodge, half her face was soaked. Fringe plastered against her forehead, leaving her looking like a drenched little rabbit. Lin Yang had already turned around to head back when he caught sight of the scene out of the corner of his eye and couldn't help snickering. Realizing it wasn't quite polite to laugh, he quickly stifled his amusement, holding his umbrella and hurrying over. Hey, can't you even hold on to an umbrella? He reached out to straighten the warped ribs that had folded inside out like a trumpet flower, pushing them back with his fingertips. He'd only managed to bend them halfway into place when another gust of wind swept by. The umbrella flipped inside out with a crash once more, flinging rainwater straight onto his face. Damn it! Lin Yang wiped the water off his face, his expression twisting in exasperation. Was this umbrella deliberately out to get him? The merchant had boasted when he bought it that it could withstand gale force winds up to level 8 and was perfect for outdoor camping. Turns out that level 8 wind rating only applied under ideal lab conditions. A random wild gust was all it took to expose its flaws, blatantly false advertising. Bai Ningbing stood beside him, her hair soaked. She twisted the hem of her dress awkwardly, not knowing what to do. Raindrops streamed down her cheeks and onto her white dress, spreading a damp stain across the collar. "I'm sorry, Lin Yang. It's all my fault for not holding it steady," she apologized quietly. Her voice was soft, tinged with a hint of grievance, like a schoolchild who'd done something wrong. "It's not your fault. This umbrella's just shoddy." Lin Yang propped the broken umbrella aside and held his larger umbrella out toward her. "We can share. One should be enough. It's not far anyway." Bai Ningbing paused for a moment, murmured a quiet and stepped under the umbrella. Side by side, they walked toward Building 12. The umbrella was spacious, yet the wind drove rain in at an angle, sending droplets swirling in from all directions. Tall as he was, Lin Yang gripped the umbrella handle, his arm growing sore as he deliberately tilted the canopy toward her. They hadn't walked 20 meters before his left shoulder was completely soaked. The cold shirt clung to his back, sending chills through him. As they walked, Bai Ningbing stole a glance at him. Seeing the dark wet patch covering half his shoulder, she whispered, "Shift the umbrella over toward you. You're all wet." "I'm fine. I run hot. I can stand the cold," Lin Yang insisted, yet he did not adjust his grip, keeping most of the shelter firmly over her. Privately, he thought, "Run hot my foot. This rainwater is freezing cold. If I get soaked much longer, I'll catch a cold. I should have worn a raincoat when I left. What a mistake." Lost in these thoughts, her foot slipped suddenly. A manhole cover lay ahead, hidden beneath pooling water that blended seamlessly with the pavement. Not noticing it, Bai Ningbing stepped straight onto it with a soft splash. Water flooded over her ankles. "Oh." She let out a small gasp and instinctively reached out, grabbing hold of Lin Yang's arm. She swayed unsteadily, her shoes filled with water, squelching with every step she took, as if she were treading on water-filled balloons.